Hello, how are you? Yeah, nawasalimia and I hope you are doing well. Yeah, mimi nimekuja kudiscuss the shame of Kirinyaga hapa kidogo, alafu tufunge kituo. I have no much to do today. Yeah, so mimi eh, eh, na na paste nini peke yake. Yeah, najua you didn't know that nitafungua lakini karibuni. Yes, karibuni. The shame of Kirinyaga. Mtu wenyu leo ameshinda akijipendekeza huko Kirinyaga ati akisema wale wengine ni wajinga, hawajui kenye wanafanya. The guy is just discussing what he wants to do. He is not showing any result. Hao watu walikuwa Kirinyaga, I don't think they are serious people. Nafikiria tu hao tu ni watu wa kulipalipwa, but kama ulisikiliza speech ya Ruto, it has too much you can unpack. So yeah, there is a lot you can unpack. So yeah. Atajaribu kujipendekeza but sifikiri anatoboa. Yeah, he will try and try and try and try and try and try, akisema venye amefanya kazi mingi, akisema hii kazi tutabadilisha, ati hii Kenya tutabadilisha. Hii Kenya tutabadilisha. Miaka ine wamekuwa wapi? Sasa ndio wameamuka, wamejua hii Kenya tunaweza badilisha. Miaka ine wamekuwa wapi? Ati we are going to change this country. My friend, Kirinyaga was a shame. Najua huyu mama this stupid woman governor. Yeah, najua huyo mama alikuwa amejaribu kummobilizea watu sana lakini atoboi. Yeah, so they will try to hoodwink people and force people Maisha TV hapa wanasema story ya kila squad tena. Na PM wa UK by the way ameresign. We also keep that one into perspective. So Morara Kebaso amejoin Matiang'i. Let me see. Sitaki kucheza Ruto, nataka tu kuona tu somebody who has a expose. Mimi siwezi cheza Ruto, si mnajua. Yeah. Na timu yetu ya Afrika iko kwa mchezo saa hii Senegal. So nilisikia wametreatiwa vibaya na ndio wameamua kucheza game mbaya. I hope they will know that wana represent Africa hata kama wajalipwa mishahara. Yeah. Hata kama wajalipwa mishahara because I'm hearing wanaongea story ya mishahara. Na nimeona pia Messi na Mbappe wanakimbizana mbaya. Messi leo amefunga bao 2, Mbappe amefunga bao 2. I think kuna vile Mbappe World Cup inamfevanga. Hiyo kama huko kwa maklabu. So Messi amefikisha bao ngapi? Messi amefikisha 17. That's what I'm hearing as per today. And I think Kylian Mbappe is in hapo tu nyuma kidogo. Ako na 15 ya kama kuna 15 he is on the right path. Yeah, so let me begin with the shame of Kirinyaga. Let me see kama kuna mtu ako nao. Yeah, napeniona kama kuna. Okay, Ruto receives grad welcome. Tutam Kirinyaga, tutakufa na Ruto. In Kirinyaga to launch coffee revitalization program. No, I cannot put a speech. Mnataka kuniambia watu wa Kirinyaga wamekaribisha Hakuna bana. Iwezekani bana. From Kirinyaga during the launch of coffee. President Ruto in Kirinyaga. Yeah, this one is better. Wacha tusikie bold. The board is much better than some of the people who would want to kutuambia mambo mingi.
Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. President William Ruto's tour in Kirinyaga County, launching some coffee project, have been boycotted by nearly all the members of parliament from the region, Mount Kenya region, even as the president loses his temper over the fallout from the members of parliament from Mount Kenya. And we are going to look at this in details. But first, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very heartbreaking case that I want us to help here. David and Kawira are in Kisumu. They visited the family of Were and Jennifer. Were and Jennifer have been married for 40 years. Jennifer is diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. She's the one who is lying in the bed there. But quite another Were surgery of that marriage. Same stadium. In this video that has been released by the State House themselves, this event was an agricultural event, and the members of agricultural committee from the National Assembly, no single member of parliament was present or rather accompanied the president in that event. From the video, you can see the host governor, Anne Waiguru, Embu Governor Cecil Mbarire, who is also the UDA chairperson, accompanied by her senator, by the Senator Mundigi, and the Nyeri Senator Wamatinga, and a member of parliament from Western. No single member of parliament from even Kirinyaga County.
Ati Ruto aliwelkamiwa na watu wa Western. Noma sana. Watu wa Western walikuja mpaka Kirinyaga to welcome him. That is a serious statement. Of course, Waiguru is outgoing. She is serving her second stanch. So I don't think that one is something serious we should even be talking of. Go ahead.
Was present. All the others were the members, the speakers, and even the MCS skipped. This is a big statement since it has come just moments after the president faced a backlash in the National Assembly over the finance bill. The MPs that were supposed to debate the finance bill and vote for the finance bill, many of them boycotted. And in the president's first maiden visit there, even to the best of my attention, I've also realized even the agriculture CS Mutahi Kahiga was not there. And in this speech, the president lost his temper while trying to attack, rant at those who opposed. He's conveniently trying to maneuver away, but there is a big question of those who opposed and those who abstained. From the body language here, you can see iko makasiriko.
Napata seedlings. Ndio mimi nashangaa nikiwa hapa Kirinyaga ya kwamba kuna wabunge wanapinga ati hiyo mswada. Sasa wewe umetumwa na hao wananchi wa kahawa, uende bunge usimamie mambo yao pale. Kwa hiyo bill mimi na sign kesho, ambayo wewe unapinga, iko pesa ya kahawa, iko pesa ya mbolea, iko pesa ya kusaidia wananchi wako, na wewe umeenda kuambiwa story na watu ambao hawajui nini inaendelea. Wanakuambia ati uende upinge. Hiyo ni kukosa akili ama ni kuwa na akili sijui ya aina gani? Sio, ni upuzi mkubwa sana. Kwanza walienda huko bunge wakapeleka propaganda na porojo na fitina. Bunge ati alafu mnaambiwa na mtu fulani ati muende mupinge. Pesa iko ya hawa wananchi. Sasa mimi nataka niwaulize, mbunge ametumwa na wananchi ama ametumwa na mtu fulani? Anaenda kuzungumza mambo ya wananchi ama anaenda kuzungumza mambo ya mtu? Si ni ya mwananchi. So I want to tell members of parliament, please, my friends, respect the voters who voted for you. You cannot oppose a bill that brings resources to the people of Kenya. Don't use propaganda. Musitumie fitina katika kujaribu kuendesha siasa yenu. Semeni ukweli, hawa wananchi wako na akili.
Yes. And I've said it, guys. It's even better those who went to parliament and voted no, those who opposed. There is a cabal, 186 members of parliament who did not even step to parliament building for that crucial vote. And William Ruto is selectively talking about those who oppose. And the question here is, if the document was as perfect as the Kenya Kwanza are saying, then why did their own MPs skip or decline to vote? I have seen Ndindi Nyoro defending himself by saying he was in Canada, something we don't agree because he knew well. And if in fact there is electronic voting, so even in Canada, he could still have voted. This applies to all the other absent members of parliament. You must not vote physically. You must not even be in the office to vote. For information, you can instruct the clerk to vote for you how you want. You just need to tell the clerk, I'm voting. The clerk will vote you. Yes, that is what I established.
Sasa hapo kuna kitu noma. Sasa if the clerk, if you can call the clerk and you give your vote, then why did 180 MPs did a boycott? It is something we need to ask and ask ourselves, why would 180 people not call or send a text if what this brother is saying is true? Kwa nini usitume text, we, ebu piga no hapo, ebu piga yes hapo? Something which, so this boycott means a lot. Go ahead, sir.
And from this statement, the president is angry. The president is disturbed because someone just skipped his meeting. If the budget is carrying money for farmers, it has tax clauses on how that money is going to be raised. So it is a blackmail to go to public to only unleash the one side of the story on there is money for fertilizer. But it has tax proposals. Why can the government say one or two things that they put there to collect the taxes to pay for fertilizer? The members of parliament themselves are not explaining the tax policies. And Kindiki, I realized, Kindiki explanation on the Ruto re-election appears a bit more confused and not really targeting the real information that he needs to say. And Professor know very well. The Constitution says the president can only serve a maximum of 2 terms. The Constitution did not say that the president must serve 2 terms. In fact, I think these are kicks of dying horse. If the deputy president can only cling on a spined constitutional clause to campaign for Ruto's re-election.
By then nilisikia hapo ati akisema ati Kindiki alisema katiba inasema term 2 sio term 1. I think we need to put that one. Yeah, let me put that one because that one is important. Let me look for it. He referenced the Constitution, so at one time is unconstitutional. Wacha niweke hiyo. Yeah, that one is nitarudisha ubeste, but it's very important we reference that as well. It's very important. We reference that.
Hakuna kitu kama one term kwa katiba. Ule mtu anasema one term hajasoma katiba. Katiba imesema tu, term ya kwanza ni ya kuleta programs na kuleta policies na kuleta marekebisho na kuleta ile miradi ambayo inaambatana na ruwaza ya huyo kiongozi kama kiongozi wa taifa. Term ya pili ni ya kukamilisha. Kwa sababu katiba imesema term ni ngapi? Term ni ngapi? Kwanza hii 2 term imeanza juzi. Katika katiba ya zamani hakukuwa hata na limit. Ndio uliona ule mzee alikuwa hapa 24 years. Moi karibu akuwe long term. Lakini sasa tuko na katiba ambaye tunaheshimu. Lakini hiyo katiba imetuambia hakuna rais, kulingana na katiba, hakuna rais anaweza kuanzisha na kukamilisha mambo ya maendeleo ya nchi na miaka 5. Ikasema kuwe na 2 term. Na rais ameonyesha ile kazi ambaye amefanya katika term ya kwanza. Kwa hivyo next year Rais Ruto atakuja kueleza mahali amefikisha kilimo, elimu, biashara, barabara, manyumba ya bei nafuu, masoko. Alafu ndio tumwambie sasa kulingana na katiba wewe endelea na 2 term. Niseme nisiseme? Ni kweli si kweli? Ni 2 term si 2 term? So the Constitution has designed a 2 term period for the President of Kenya to be able to start and complete programs. And therefore, anybody trying to sell a narrative of anything short of a two-term must know they are undermining the Constitution of Kenya.
Why? Hiyo sijui ni gani. I think huyu jamaa sasa ameamua sasa kudanganya Wakenya vile anataka. Ati hakuna one term. Ni two term.
Then it seems they are short of ideas or messages they can send to stage in order to put their argument.
Mr. Rais, mimi najua ya kwamba nyinyi wakulima munajua maneno ya katiba ya Kenya. Katiba ya Kenya inasema hivi ya kwamba rais wa nchi atahudumu kwa kipindi ya miaka 10. Miaka 5 ya kwanza, alafu baada ya miaka 5 arudi aseme vile amefanya mambo ya kahawa, aseme zile barabara amejenga, aseme zile affordable housing amejenga, aseme vile ile mambo ambayo ametufanyia ya stima, alafu another 5 years, yote 10. Ni kwa sababu katiba imetambua it is not possible for a president to initiate, implement and complete programs that can transform a country in only 5 years. Kwa hivyo katiba ndio imesema two term, sio sisi. Sisi tunasema tu vile katiba inasema. Rais tuendelee siendelee. Ni two term, si two term. Ni katiba, sio katiba.
Where the Constitution says, just like the governors and the MPs, you can only serve a maximum of 2 terms. That Constitution did not put a rope on the neck of the Kenyan voter that you must vote in a president after first term. It is your constitutional obligation to vote, and it is a matter of choice to choose the leader you prefer. The two legislators, Senator Omatinga and Mundigi, could not even address the crowd. And it was shortly. I wanted to see the political campaigns that others always do. Mundigi and Omatinga did nothing much apart from trying to hype already about crowd. I want to explain something on this boycott by the MPs. And I want to get it very right. But first, I'm still reminding you guys, I have an extremely special case here. A couple. The wife, breast cancer stage 4. The husband has also now lately been diagnosed by enlarged prostate. Very, yeah, we are standing in the gap to support.
Yeah. So Bwana Mwamba, tumesikia story ati katiba haisemi one term, katiba inasema two term. Sasa hawa majamaa wameamua sasa kwenda kudanganya Wakenya. Na nikuulize, wale mangavana huanguka term ya pili, mbona wachaguli yangu two terms? Hawa watu ile ujinga iko nayo haina mwisho. I think these people are dead. Wacha niweke Gen Z. Gen Z are better. Yeah, mimi wacha niweke Gen Z. Achane na hao. Shen!
Now, Kenya's Gen Z are defying calls by the state to refrain from the June 25th protests meant to remember those killed during the 2024 anti-government protests. Through an online campaign that is now gathering momentum, the Gen Z have laid out their demands ahead of the Thursday demonstrations, including a push to get the government to issue a public apology for the deadly killings that claimed over 60 lives, according to data by human rights groups. KTN's Francis Ontomwa with the details.
It's been 2 agonizing years for Kenya since over 60 young souls were brutally ended by bullets following a never-seen-before youthful uprising, the Gen Z revolt. Time may have elapsed, but affected families have not moved on.
I don't know what I'll do for these dear children.
Thursday marks exactly 2 years since scores of youths were sprayed with bullets inside and outside Kenya's parliament. And as the commemoration approaches, Gen Z are ready to remember what they call their freedom fighters. The online campaign has listed, among other things, a push to have June 25 declared a national holiday and the unveiling of a national monument to honor their heroes. This, as well as the issuance of a public apology by the state over the brutal killings. Additionally, they are demanding a clear commitment from the state that never again shall the Kenya police be used to kill innocent citizens. This, they say, should also include institutional reforms within the police service. Some Kenyan social media users have already changed their profile pictures to the photo of the late Rex Kanyike Masai, considered the first casualty of the deadly skirmishes, to mark the second anniversary of the protests. Increasingly, even in the wake of plans to compensate victims of the skirmishes, some human rights defenders insist this is only a partial solution, with the bigger picture also involving bringing all culprits to justice.
Father, we stand together with these young people in this city as an apostolic people. There shall be no goons hired to hurt our people, to hurt our children, to hurt our businesses, and to hurt our cities and our towns.
The 2024 protest came about in the most unprecedented way and remain one of the most solemn moments in independent Kenya. Francis Ontomwa, KTN.
Meanwhile,
story ndio hiyo. Ask yourself, why would the government not apologize? Ama wanajifanya sasa wao ni kichwa. Why would the government not apologize? Ni swali tu nauliza, why would the government not apologize? Niliona pia Martha Karua alikuwa Uganda na walimfungilia. So she is really suffering because East Africa has collapsed and is lacking democracy everywhere. Alikuwa anaelezea kwa TV leo. Okay. Let me have Matiang'i.
When curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family,
William Ruto has drawn his sword, and Fred Matiang'i has told him, sheath it or bleed. This is where Kenya is tonight, 3 days from June 25th, the second anniversary of the protest that cracked this government open, spilled young Kenyan blood in the streets, and forced a sitting president into the most humiliating policy reversal of his tenure. And instead of arriving at this anniversary with humility, with accountability, with even the performance of remorse, Ruto has come out swinging, threatening, vowing to deal with anyone who shows up on those streets with merciless force. And Matiang'i, the former Interior Cabinet Secretary, the man who once held the keys to every security instrument in this republic, has responded with a kind of warning that does not come wrapped in diplomatic language. Not a suggestion, not a gentle nudge, a warning, direct, surgical, delivered by a man who knows exactly what the government is culpable of, because for years he was the government. Let us be precise about what Ruto actually said, because the framing matters enormously. The president has gone public, unambiguous, unapologetic, and frankly alarming in its tone, with a vow that the state will not tolerate what he frames as chaos, destruction, and disruption on June 25th.
Kama unaenda kwa maandamano unabeba mawe. na sijui panga na marungu. Wewe si mtu ya kuandamana. Yes. Kwa sababu we want a peaceful country. Uwezi kuwa unajifanya unaenda maandamano, unaenda kuharibu mali ya watu, unachoma mali ya watu, unaumiza watu wengine. That is not acceptable. Na hawa viongozi wanaendesha hiyo maneno, wajipange vizuri, kwa sababu uweze kupanga vita alafu ungoje. Lazima we must explain ourselves how is this thing going to work. So tutaendelea.
On the surface, that reads like responsible leadership. Dig one layer deeper, and it is something far more chilling, because Ruto is not just talking about rioters and looters. He is talking about the commemoration of a massacre. He is vowing merciless force against a generation that is asking who killed our friends, who gave the orders, who is in prison for it. He is not answering those questions. He is threatening the people, asking them. That is not governance. That is a government frightening of its own citizens.
It has so many things that are so uncalled for.
And Matiang'i standing in front of cameras, blazer on, jaw set, zero diplomatic softening in his posture or his voice, is not letting that pass.
I want to tell the government is there's a limit to what you can do, and there's a limit to the point you can push your people to. When people respond and when people resist, it will be unfortunate. And when leaders are in office, such as we have seen around, with all this arrogant hubris that we have seen, they imagine it will not happen. It can and will actually happen if we are not careful about the language we are using and how we are addressing ourselves. So I hope the government will be more responsible, more reflective, more consultative, more inclusive as we go into this season of commemorating the demonstrations of 2024. And then more tolerant and more careful of the lives of our young people.
Two clips have touched X in the last 48 hours. In the first, he is in a sharp dark suit, electric, clapping and pointing with the urgency of a man who has completely abandoned subtly. The caption on the clip, "Serikali iko imara," drips the irony so thick you could cut it, because Matiang'i's entire point is that a government that needs to threaten its youth into silence is not strong. It is afraid. The second clip, raw, outdoor, supporters packed around him, cameras rolling, shows him speaking with the controlled fury of someone who has calculated every word and decided that none of them needs softening. On screen, June 25th, commemoration. Matiang'i calls for peaceful protests ahead of Gen Z protest anniversary. But what is he really saying underneath that headline is this: Ruto, you do not own those streets. You do not own this grief. And you do not get to threaten your way out of an accountability moment that this country is owed. This warning arrives with three blades attached. First, the Constitution guarantees the right for peaceful protest and petition. That right does not expire because the president finds the timing politically inconvenient. It does not bend because State House is nervous about what June 25th commemorations might say about this government's legacy. It stands immovable, and any force deployed against people exercising that right is not law enforcement, it is state violence. Second, security forces must be restrained, not advised, not reminded of protocol, physically, operationally, categorically restrained from the kind of deployment that turned 2024 into a killing field, because briefings that did not stop live bullets last time, orders did not stop disappearances last time. Matiang'i is saying the restraint must be structural, not cosmetic. Third, and this is the blade that goes deepest, merciless force will not end this, it will multiply it. Every canister fired at a peaceful crowd does not disappear a moment, it recruits for it. Every young Kenyan who watches a peer get shot asking for accountability does not go home and forget it. They come back harder, angrier, with more people behind them. Matiang'i is telling Ruto, from the architecture of lived experience, you cannot brutalize your way to legitimacy. It has never worked. It will not work now. He is diagnosing a government that has confused fear with respect and compliance with consent. Kenya does not consent. To understand why this confrontation carries the weight it does, you have to sit with what actually happened in 2024. Young Kenyans, not politicians, not opposition operatives, not foreign agents, young Kenyans, most of them born after multi-party democracy arrived in this country, took to the streets over a finance bill that was taxing cooking oil and bread and sanitary pads, while the government was spending billions on foreign trips, state house renovations, and a deputy president's motorcade. They were not armed. They were not organized by any party. They were organized by grief and fury and a cost of living that was making survival feel like punishment. The government met them with live bullets. Between 39 and 60 Kenyans were killed. The government has never given an honest count. Dozens more disappeared, picked up at night, families with no answers, no bodies, no phone calls. The River Yala killings, bodies recovered from a river, investigations opened, and quietly buried justice reduced to a press statement, stand as the most damning indictment of what this government is culpable of when it feels cornered. Parliament was breached, the finance bill was withdrawn. Ruto went on television and said he was listening. He was not listening, he was buying time, because here we are in 2026, new finance bill on the table, same economic pain untreated, same families still waiting for answers about their disappeared children, and instead of accountability, Kenya is getting threats of merciless force. Matiang'i is not just warning Ruto, he is holding a mirror up to a government that has never truly confronted the magnitude of what it did in 2024 and is now apparently prepared to do it again. This is where it lands. Ruto has vowed merciless force. Matiang'i has told him, do that, and it backfires. The streets are mobilizing. The grief is fresh. The finance bill is back. The accountability for 2024 never came. Kenya is not approaching June 25th asking whether this government deserves scrutiny. Kenya is approaching June 25th asking whether this government is about to make the same catastrophic blood-soaked mistake it made 2 years ago. Matiang'i has delivered the warning loudly, publicly, without blinking. The next move belongs to Ruto, and the entire country and everyone watching this country will be watching exactly what that move looks like. Newsroom, Maisha TV, Mesh Msembi.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Yeah, I think Matiang'i is becoming more subtle and more clear. I think that was a very good presser from him, and I have appreciated it. Yeah, we need somebody to defend the young people. Na ukiona watu kama wanaongea hivyo, good. Aya, let's have Mother Carol.
Martha Karua landed at Entebbe Airport this morning and never left the terminal. No crime, no warrant, no explanation beyond two words that are becoming the most chilling phrase in East African politics. Red alert.
The unfortunate bit is Senior Counsel Martha Karua also did not come to attend this trial because she's one of the lawyers. Has just been denying entry after being.
The same woman Samia Suluhu's Tanzania turned back in 2025. Same tactic, different dictator. Museveni's regime just picked up where Tanzania left off. And when Kenya's most formidable senior counsel is being treated like a fugitive at regional airports for simply showing up to defend lawyers in chains, something rotten is spreading across this region. And it is spreading fast.
We can be detained here. The common thread among us, we are guests of East Africa Law Society, and there is fear in this government.
Monday, June 22nd, 2026, Martha Karua, Senior Counsel, former Justice Minister, People's Liberation Party leader, touches down at Entebbe International Airport in Uganda. Her mission is straightforward: check on her colleague, lawyer Elias Lukwago, who had been unlawfully arrested, detained, and allegedly tortured. She also intended to support the defense of Dr. Kizza Besigye, Uganda's veteran opposition leader, who is facing treason charges in Kampala in what many legal observers have called a kangaroo court in military fatigues. She never made it past immigration. Ugandan authorities pulled her aside, switched off her phones, held her incommunicado, and handed her on one-way ticket back to Nairobi. The reason? A red alert, a covert travel ban so opaque it doesn't need a judge, a charge sheet, or even a face-to-face explanation, just a flag in the system. And you're done. Her colleague, Law Society of Kenya President Charles Kanjama, who traveled with her, walked straight through. No drama, no red alert, no drama, just matter. Singled out like a thorn they needed to pull from the region's side. Now here's where it gets truly alarming, because this is not a one-off. This is a pattern, and patterns have architects. Cast your mind back to May 2025. Same Martha Karua, different airport. Julius Nyerere International, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Samia Suluhu Hassan government detained her along with fellow Kenyan lawyers and activists for hours on the tarmac and deported them before they could set foot in a courtroom to observe opposition leader Tundu Lissu's treason trial.
This is a show of solidarity from LSK, the Society of Kenya. Cleared shoes, go back and to the country. That's the unfortunate bit of it. It's so disappointing. But not able to have.
Suluhu's regime even had the audacity to warn Kenyan activists openly, stay out of our politics.
Tumeanza kuona mtiririko au mwenendo wa wanaharakati ndani ya region yetu hii kuanza kuvamia na kuingilia mambo yetu huku. Sasa kama kwao wameshadhibitiwa, wasije kutuharibia huku. Tusitowe nafasi. Walishaharibu kwao, walishavuruga kwao.
Fast forward to 13 months, same instrument, different hand. Museveni's Uganda, Besigye's treason case, Lukwago's alleged torture, and once again, Martha Karua gets the red alert. 2 countries, 2 dictators, 1 playbook. The ink is barely dry between chapters. Let us be precise about what a red alert actually does, because it sounds bureaucratic, but the mechanisms are anything but. A red alert is essentially a covert blacklist. No court order, no formal charge, no appeal process visible to the person being flagged. It is a shadow instrument that turns immigration counters into political checkpoints. A lawyer, an activist, a journalist, anyone a regime finds inconvenient simply gets tagged in the system, and the airport becomes a wall they cannot climb. Karua revealed at JKIA after landing that she had been warned about this last week. She knew it was coming, and she boarded the plane anyway. That alone tells you everything about the woman's mettle. But it also raises a darker question. If she knew, who tipped her off? And what does it say about the coordination, or at least the mimicry, happening between these East African governments? Strip away the names and you're left with the principle under siege. The right of a lawyer to cross a border to defend another lawyer. Martha Karua wasn't going to Uganda to run for office. She wasn't going to rally crowds or distribute flyers. She was going to check on a colleague who had allegedly been tortured. Even that was too dangerous, a gesture for Museveni's regime to permit. The Uganda Law Society and the East Africa Law Society have both condemned the deportation as a direct assault on regional integration and the rule of law.
And according to that Act of Parliament, to extradite someone from this country to their home country requires a legal process, and you must go through the judiciary. I can confirm to us that that did not happen.
Legal observers across the continent are watching this closely, because when senior counsel of Karua's stature can be casually boundaried out of a neighboring country, the message isn't just sent to her. It is sent to every junior lawyer, every activist, every civic educator thinking about showing solidarity across borders. Stay home, stay quiet, or get a red alert. Back at JKIA, Karua didn't flinch. Composed, sharp, and surgical, as she always is, she connected the dots publicly. She explained she had been warned last week about the red alert following the arrest, detention, and torture of Uganda lawyer Eliud Lukwago. She made clear she was traveling not in a legal capacity, but simply as a colleague checking on a fellow member of the bar. And she vowed to continue the fight. But here's the question nobody is fully answering yet.
The East Africa Treaty obliges all the states to follow the rule of law. Following the rule of law means, according to Tundu Lissu, a fair and impartial trial, public trial, and therefore admitting observers like ourselves.
Where does Kenya's government stand? President Ruto has built his regional brand on East African integration, on Pan-African solidarity, on being a statesman who speaks at global forums. But when your own senior counsel, a former cabinet minister, is being flagged as persona non grata by your neighbors for defending opposition lawyers, the silence from Nairobi is deafening. It is a silence that echoes. First it was Luhu, now it is Museveni. The red alerts are multiplying, and the region's democratic firewall is crumbling. One airport, one deportation, one silenced lawyer at a time. Martha Karua is back in Nairobi, but the biggest story is just beginning. Newsroom, Maisha TV, William Juma.
Yeah, that story of Martha Karua akifukuzwa ama akiambiwa hata ingia kwa huko Uganda is very serious. Okay. We continue fighting. This is the only way in which we will fight. Hakuna story ingine. Tutapigana na hawa mpaka tushinde. So the Gen Z, I wish akina Gachagua pia they joined these Gen Zs as well. Wawape ulinzi pia. They become it can actually, they can now build more momentum wakiungana na hawa watoto. There is something. So kama Gachagua anataka kujenga more momentum, there is something here. Hii maneno ya kutoroka maandamano hapa, you can build a momentum. Aya, let's see maneno ya Sifuna.
Endorsed the removal from office of Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna.
Mimi ndio Sifuna.
ODM just pulled the trigger. Edwin Sifuna, Senator, street fighter, the man a million Kenyans call their own, has been removed as ODM Secretary General by the party's National Executive Committee, just like that. After months of political chess, late-night tribunal battles, and a party civil war playing out in full public view, the NEC sat down today and finished what they started in February. The boy from Kandui has been shown the door.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, and welcome to our very vibrant orange Chungwa House. Chungwa House.
Here's the thing about doors. Sometimes the man walking out is more dangerous than the one staying in.
You cannot keep him in the party. He is gone.
Hata uko na ujasiri wa kuchestampia ati unatolea mheshimiwa rais kifua chako, na hiyo kifua chako hata nikikiona hakifai.
ODM's National Secretary Committee met today, and when they stood up from that table, Edwin Sifuna was no longer Secretary General of the Orange Democratic Movement. It is done. After months of legal battles, tribunal rulings, procedural objections, and a party civil war loud enough to wake the dead, the NEC has resolved officially to remove Sifuna from the position he has held, defended, and bled for. The party says it has now addressed all procedural concerns raised by the political party's disputes tribunal. Clean hands, they claim. Job done, they clapped.
The NEC received and considered the report of the party's internal disputes resolution committee that was constituted in accordance with Article 51(3)(f) of the party constitution to hear and determine the complaint concerning Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna in his capacity as the Secretary General. After going through the report and the findings of the IDRS under Article 74, Section 2 of the party constitution, the NEC unanimously resolved to adopt the committee's recommendation and endorsed the removal from office of Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna. Effectively, Senator Sifuna ceases to be the Secretary General of the ODM party.
But nothing about this story is clean. Let's go back to where this fire was first lit. February 11th, 2026. ODM's NEC passed an initial resolution to remove Sifuna as Secretary General. No fair hearing, no due process, just a decision. Swift, surgical, and arguably illegal. Sifuna ran to the political party's disputes tribunal and the PPDT agreed with him. That February resolution was partially nullified. You can't fire a man without giving him a chance to speak. Even in Kenyan politics, there are rules. But ODM is not a party that takes a loss and goes home quietly. On June 18th, 2026, the PPDT handed down a second ruling, this time allowing ODM to proceed with internal disciplinary action while striking down the rushed corner-cutting version of the removal. In other words, the tribunal didn't protect Sifuna. It only told ODM to do the job properly. And today, they did.
As the National Executive Committee, we were presented by a report of our internal disciplinary committee, and we were hoping that the chair might be here. And in that report, he has left. In that report, they made it very clear that they have given ample opportunity to Senator Edwin Sifuna to respond.
Hata huyu ameingia hii kitu. Kweli.
And he actually responded through his lawyers, Senior Counsel Okero, Isaac Okero, and therefore the question of the procedural consent has been taken care of. He was given the opportunity to respond. I think that was your question.
Now Sifuna, per the NEC, is free to remain as an ordinary member or to form his own party. That sentence is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Ordinary member, for a man who has spent years as one of the loudest, sharpest voices in the Senate, for a man with 1.38 million followers on X, for a man who has stood at a rally after rally in Sika, in Githurai, in Kiambu, telling Kenyans that the opposition is not dead. Ordinary member, they might as well have handed him a broom and pointed him toward the back of the room.
Our party constitution places a responsibility on us to fight for ODM, and fight we shall. Through all lawful means, we shall fight for this great institution until the very end. We will challenge every illegality in the courts of law and in the court of public opinion. Surrender is not an option for us.
Here's what ODM does not seem to understand, or perhaps understands too well and is gambling on anyway. Martyrs are made, not born. Every move designed to diminish Edwin Sifuna has had the opposite effect. When they removed him from the Senate Energy Committee, a committee chaired by Oburu Odinga himself, the streets didn't see a disciplined party. They saw a family protecting its own turf. When reports emerged that he would be stripped of his deputy minority whip position when the Senate resumes on July 15th, political commentators didn't call it a victory for ODM. They called it a gift to Sifuna. Every wound they inflict becomes a badge.
I see this removal from the Energy Committee being an indication that Oburu fears to face Sifuna. In other words, that Sifuna will make Oburu Odinga very uncomfortable chairing a committee with an active member like Sifuna inside that committee. So in very simple English, because you see English is not our language, so we have just to use the most simple and basic words. And the word people are using that Oburu fears Sifuna. Kwamba amemwogopa Sifuna hata hataki kukaa karibu na yeye. That doesn't look to me like a plus on the part of those who want to attack Sifuna. This is a plus on Sifuna, because then it grows his popularity. And remember, every time you attack somebody who is supposed to be weaker than you, sympathy goes his direction. People always sympathize with the underdog.
The man social media users are calling the boy from Kandui. Everyone is now saying yeye ni Sifuna, and has become something bigger than a party title. That phrase has taken on a life of its own online and on the ground. It speaks to roots, to someone who remembers where he came from. In a political landscape full of men who forgot where they came from, Sifuna knows, and many say he is in the hearts of the people.
Munaniona vizuri. Munaniona vizuri. Mimi ndio Sifuna.
And then there is Linda Mwananchi movement. Sifuna has been quietly and not so quietly building this vehicle, rallying ground, new faces, new energy, his own lane. Figures like Faith Odhiambo are in the orbit. This is not a man sitting at home waiting for ODM to call him back. Whether he formalizes Linda Mwananchi into a party or uses it as a pressure group, the infrastructure is being assembled, block by block, ward by ward. Meanwhile, ODM is doing its own arithmetic. The party loyalists argue that this is about discipline, that Sifuna's vision no longer aligned with where the orange ship was sailing, that you cannot have a secretary general going rogue on the public stage while the party is trying to hold itself together ahead of 2027.
Mkutano inaendelea. Haitawezekana leo.
Yaani mnataka kuniambia naweza kuwa katibu mkuu wa ODM, katibu mkuu wa Raila Amolo Odinga miaka 8 bila mnaniona hivi, and then I become the SG of mediocrity. Me, Oburu tafuta SG wa
and resist the efforts by President William Ruto to hostilely take over this party. We will not allow it.
The problem in ODM is President Ruto. We are asking President Ruto to let ODM go, let ODM alone.
This party is a party like a club. When you join a club, you have to obey the rules of that club. You cannot disobey the rules of the club and you continue to brand yourself that I am the party leader of ODM, and yet I contradict everything that ODM is saying.
There is a logic to that argument. Parties are not democracies. They are machines, and machines require alignment. But the political cost of removing a popular figure 6 months after failing to do it cleanly, the first time, is a bill that will come due. What does Sifuna do next? As of this afternoon, he had not issued a formal public statement on today's NEC resolution. He will. That silence itself is a message. He's letting the story breathe, letting the anger on his behalf build without putting a lid on it. When he speaks, And he will speak. He will be speaking to a base that already feels wronged on his behalf. The road to 2027 in Kenya is not a road. It is a minefield. And ODM just made one of its own consequential moves in this pre-election season. Whether it was wise is a question only the ballot box will answer. The man from Kandui is now free. The question is, free to do what? Drop your comments. Newsroom, Maisha TV, Bushabi Jr.
You're invited to join Phoenix.
So bado hawachoki kucharaza Sifuna, so I don't know what they intend to achieve hapo. I think Sifuna is continuing to become huge and huge. So sioni hapo kama kuna kitu ana achieve ya maana. They are not achieving anything much. So I think ODM is focusing on the wrong thing. Karibu sana Kesha, ndiye huyo. Ana ananiambia nime lose plot. I don't know what she means by that. Ati nime lose plot. 25th atubebwe yeah. I don't think there is something they are adding to themselves. If okay, wacha niingie kwa, but unajua yule mtu ambaye ametusumbua sana ni huyu. Hebu musikie sasa. And can you listen to this na uniambie what is this? Because this one speaks volume. This one speaks volume. Wacha tu niweke hii ya Maisha TV. Yeah, let me put this. Yeah.
Ule mtu anasema one term hajasoma katiba.
Picture this. A man who once stood in lecture halls teaching law students how to read the Constitution, now standing in front of a crowd, finger jabbing the air, chest puffed out like he's just discovered fire, announcing to the nation that one term is unconstitutional, except it isn't.
Katiba imesema tu. Katiba imesema tu.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, a trained lawyer, just battered Article 142(2) in public and said it with the swagger of a man collecting a national medal.
Kwa sababu katiba imesema tamu ni ngapi? Tamu ni ngapi? Kwanza hii tu tamu imeanza juzi. Katika katiba na ule mzee alikuwa hapa 24 years. Moi karibu akuwe long term.
Let's get straight into the madness. Kindiki, the same deputy president who inherited the seat after Rigathi Gachagwa's dramatic impeachment exit, stood before a crowd and declared with full legal professor theatre, he is the path that should embarrass an entire legal career. This isn't some obscure clause buried in a footnote. This is Article 142(2) as basic to Kenyan law as ugali is to a Kenyan diner table. It says no person should hold the office of president for more than 2 terms. Read that again. More than 2 terms. That's a ceiling, a limit, a stop sign, not a starting gun that fires a mandatory second lap. A president can survive 1 term and walk away with dignity intact, win a second and finish his agenda, or get sent packing by voters after round 1. The constitution hands the people the steering wheel. Kindiki on camera tried to snatch it back, and Kenyans did not let it slide.
Lakini sasa tuko na katiba ambaye tunaheshimu. Lakini hiyo katiba imetuambia hakuna rais, kulingana na katiba, hakuna rais anaweza kuanzisha na kukamilisha mambo ya maendeleo ya nchi na miaka 5. Ikasema kuwe na 2 term. Na rais ameonyesha ile kazi ambaye amefanya katika term ya kwanza. Kwa hivyo next year Rais Ruto atakuja kueleza mahali amefikisha kilimo, elimu, biashara, barabara, manyumba ya bei nafuu, masoko. Alafu ndio tumwambie sasa, kulingana na katiba, wewe endelea na 2 term. Niseme nisiseme? Ni kweli si kweli? Ni 2 term si 2 term? So the constitution has designed a 2 term period for the president of Kenya to be able to start and complete programs. And therefore anybody trying to sell a narrative of anything short of a 2 term must know they are undermining the constitution.
The reaction was instant and merciless. When did 1 term become unconstitutional? Kindiki must be running mad. The constitution sets a maximum, not a minimum. Voters decide. Within hours, 1 term, the opposition's long-running battle cry against a second Ruto term wasn't just trending. It was sitting on the throne of Kenyan Twitter, crowned by the very mistake meant to bury it. Now strip away the noise and stare straight at the bizarre theater of it all. This is not a border rider misquoting law over a tasker at the local. This is a former law lecturer, a former Senate majority leader, a sitting deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, standing in broad daylight, misreading the very document he's sworn to protect and wearing the mistake like a badge of honor instead of an embarrassment.
Term ya kwanza ni ya kuleta programs na kuleta policies na kuleta marekebisho na kuleta ile miradi ambayo inaambatana na ruwaza ya huyo kiongozi kama kiongozi wa taifa. Term ya pili ni ya kukamilisha.
So why the theater? For months, Kenyan youth, opposition voices, and even disillusioned Hustler Nation faithful have been beating the 1 term drum, citing broken 2022 promises, a punishing cost of living, the bloody 2025 protest, and a base that feels stalled a dream and handed a death note instead. In response, Kenya Kwanza's heavyweight, Altari Oscar Sudi, Aden Duale, and now Kindiki himself have gone on full offensive, insisting the president has every constitutional right to chase a second term. Kindiki dressed it up nicely. First term to lay the foundation, second term to finish the house, but critics aren't buying the blueprint. Re-election, they remind him, is under the ballot, not assumed in a speech.
Si mnajua wale wakora wa mtandao kule Nairobi wanapiga kelele, wanasema sijui Ruto must go, sijui nini. Simulisikia niliambia hawa jana waruke juu, waende chini, waende kando, hakuna penye Ruto anaenda. Ama ni aje? Si mnajua wale wanajifanya wanafikirianga lazima wao tu ndio waongoze inji. Hapana, hata Mluya anaweza ongoza, hata Mturukana anaweza ongoza. Mkenya yote ako na uwezo wa kuongoza. Si hata mimi mtanipatia rais mwingine.
So here is the explosive question nobody in Kenya Kwanza wants to touch directly. Why is the deputy president fighting this battle this early, this loud, and this sloppily? Is this just standard campaign chest thumping gone wrong? Or is something bigger being built behind the curtain? Are they laying groundwork to delegitimize 1 term pressure before it grows teeth? Are they bracing for an economy that could make 2027 re-election a handsell? Or, as many Kenyans are now openly asking, is this maneuvering electoral engineering, or even preparing the nation's mind for a disputed 2027 re-election result? Because the timing is not innocent. 2027 is barely 18 months away. The wounds from 2022 haven't even scared over. Public trust in institutions is running on fumes, and into the fragile rooms walks the deputy president, misquoting the constitution and treating the era like an achievement worth applause.
Lakini sasa tuko na katiba ambaye tunaheshimu. Lakini hiyo katiba imetuambia hakuna rais, kulingana na katiba, hakuna rais anaweza kuanzisha na kukamilisha mambo ya maendeleo ya nchi miaka 5. Ikasema kuwe na 2 term. Na rais ameonyesha ile kazi ambaye amefanya katika term ya kwanza. Kwa hivyo next year Rais Ruto atakuja kueleza mahali amefikisha kilimo, elimu, biashara, barabara, manyumba ya bei nafuu, masoko. Alafu ndio tumwambie sasa, kulingana na katiba, wewe endelea na 2 term. Niseme nisiseme? Ni kweli si kweli? Ni 2 term si 2 term? So the constitution has designed a 2-term period for the president of Kenya to be able to start and complete programs. And therefore anybody trying to sell a narrative of anything short of a 2-term must know they are undermining the constitution.
The constitution does not force any president into a second term. It hands the people the power to decide, full stop. And right now, millions of Kenyans are reminding Kithure Kindiki loudly and without apology that one term isn't unconstitutional. It's a democracy doing exactly what it was built to do. And a lawyer of his standing has no excuse for forgetting that. Newsroom, Maisha TV, Mesh Msembi.
Yeah, mumesikia story hapo ya Kindiki, ni story noma. According to Kindiki anasema zinakuanga ngapi? Hakuna moja. Ni ngapi? Ati ni ngapi? Wewe ukiingia hapo ni ngapi? Regardless of what you do. I think Kindiki is pretending. Ajasikia watu ambao hata wametoroa midterm. Hebu niwaekee huyu mbona hajamaliza term? These people are so stupid. Mbona huyu hajamaliza? Mnamuita aje? Sitaki kuambia, nataka Mbona huyu hajamaliza term? Ama huyu si binadamu? Mbona huyu hajamaliza term? Mbona huyu hajamaliza term? Wekea kidogo hapo mumusikie.
Slow down with vanilla milk
Mbona huyu
chocolate
hajamaliza
almond.
term?
That's done.
Amegonga tu miaka 2.
And here is the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Thank you. Thank you. Walking up this street 2 years ago was the proudest moment of my life. A new Labour government, the first in 14 years. A page in our country's history turned after years of disappointment and despair. The chance to change the lives of millions of people for the better. That's what I came into politics for. The journey to that point was not easy. 6 years ago, I inherited a Labour Party that was politically, financially, and morally bankrupt. I was told time and time again that my party was finished, that we were consigned to history, that a majority at the general election, let alone a landslide majority, was impossible. But we proved those people wrong because we changed our party, ripping out the poison of anti-Semitism, restoring trust on the economy, defence and national security, and becoming a party that once again stood proudly with, not against, our national flag. The hard work of change was with a singular purpose, not power for power's sake, but to change Britain for the better, to build a fairer country with dignity and respect, where everyone is seen, everyone is valued, wealth and opportunity for all, not just the privileged few. And look at what we've achieved in just 2 years. An economy that is stronger, growing faster than our peers, wages rising faster than inflation in every single month since we came to power, investment secured, infrastructure being built, an end to austerity, with the fastest fall in NHS waiting lists for 17 years, the biggest improvement in rights for workers and renters in a generation, the biggest uplift in defence spending since the Cold War, small boat crossings falling, asylum hotels closing, protecting young people from social media, and 500,000 children being lifted out of poverty because of the choices that I made. Our reputation in the world restored, with Britain once again standing up for decency, respect, and the rule of law, securing trade deals, standing with Ukraine, standing up for our values, and rebuilding our relationship with our allies in Europe. Change promised by a Labour government, change fought for by a Labour government, change delivered by a Labour government. But I know the question being asked now is not who was best placed to change the Labour Party, to take us into power and to begin the vital work of improving lives for millions of people. Those questions have been answered. The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision. I will ask the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party to set out a timetable with nominations opening on the 9th of July and completed by the summer recess. In the case of a contest, this will ensure a new leader is in place before Parliament returns in September. I will remain in post as Prime Minister until the contest is complete, and I will do everything I can to ensure an orderly handover of power. I will also give my successor my full and unequivocal support, knowing that they will inherit a Britain that is far stronger and fairer than the one I...
Ruto ni kutusumbua na tusumbua, angekuwa ashafanya hii jobu kitambo. Hii ukirealize unasumbua taifa, unasumbua watu, hakuna kitu inafanya. Unasimamanga unasema I resign and I'm going home to my children and my wife. Story inaisha. Mtu ametusumbua. Ha? Waafrika saa zingine pia wa Thailand bwana. Yani, that is why, by the way, I respect this democracy. Resign. Hey. Yani wewe uko hapo vitu haziingiani, lakini uko hapo itakam. Waafrika pia wastaila hapo bwana. Saa zingine wananiudhi. Hawa I think for the last 6 years wako na karibu watatu.
I inherited 2 years ago, better prepared for the challenges ahead and better able to ensure the Labour Party secures a second term in office. I want to thank all of those friends and colleagues who have been at my side for these past 6 years or so, for their incredible commitment, service and support. I want to thank the brilliant Number 10 staff and our country's extraordinary civil service who dedicate their lives to public service. And when I leave the biggest job in the country, I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife, Vic, who has been a rock by my side through good times and bad, and being the best dad I can to my beautiful children, who are my pride and my joy. Thank you very much.
Man, that is serious courage. Na ndio unaonanga wazungu wanapongiva hawa watu. Kujiondoa. Unajua hii ni kama yule jamaa alijirusha kwa mto. That's why I appreciate these people. Wewe unaona merikabu inazama. Unaambia watu bwana, kuliko hii watu yote wako hapa wakufe, nirusheni tu kwa maji nikulwe na wanyama. Lakini hapa Kenya hadi unaanzia kuambua constitution haina one term. Hey. Acha tunyamaze. Ati constitution haina one term. Jay, have you heard that? Constitution haina one term. Ruto naye siwezi cheza. Afadhali tusikie majenzi.
Gen Z youth leaders have defied a call by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen to refrain from holding demonstrations on June 25th to commemorate those who lost their lives during the 2024 anti-government protests. Speaking in Nairobi, the youth led by Anthony Karumba said the demonstrations will be peaceful and conducted in accordance with the law. He also urged politicians to stop using hired goons to interfere with the youth's constitutional right to assemble and protest peacefully.
And we as the Gen Zs, history has it, and history has to be written, that for us, all we need for this country, it is good governance. And this, our sword cuts across. Whether you are in one term, whether you are in two term, it's not about sloganeering. It's about the future of young people. It's about we the Gen Zs. It's about our justice. It's about the restoration of the future of young people.
On 25th, we promise you that whatever you're planning will not happen totally. Because number one, tell me how you're leaving your kids at your home and now you're coming now to us, the young people, watoto ambao ni wa mwananchi mdogo, sisi tunaenda huko tunauliwa, alafu mnakuja kutuangalia city mortuary. Really, is that the kind of a nation that we need? And some of you are even calling yourselves that is nyinyi ndo mnataka kutuongoza. Mnatuongoza aje?
Jiro, let's be realistic. Europe or Great Britain is not Africa. We simply can't compare the two. I was not comparing, but ukikuwa sasa wewe ndio unasumbua watu, wewe ndio kindonda ndugu. Si ujiondoe watu wapone. Miba actually naweza jiondoa. Na niende nikalime madharo. Tusikie hii.
Family in Nairobi's Mathare area is tonight appealing to the government for answers over the whereabouts of their relative Joel Kariuki, who they claim was abducted by people they suspect or police officers. The family says efforts to trace him through various police stations has yielded no result. They describe Kariuki, a former aspirant of the Mabatini Ward MCS seat, as a respected community member with no known criminal record. Police spokesperson Kirinyaga, however, says police do not abduct people, but arrest suspects in accordance with the law. And TV's Victor Ngaruya begins our broadcast tonight.
A family in Mathare, Nairobi says it is living in fear and uncertainty following the disappearance of their kin, Joel Kariuki, popularly known as Karis, who reportedly went missing on Thursday.
Stop abducting us!
According to his relatives, Kariuki was taken away by armed men who allegedly identified themselves as security officers.
Bwanangu alitekwa nyara on Thursday saa 8
Aliniacha kwa duka, tunafanya kazi ya biashara. Like 10 minutes kutoka kwa duka ile duka ile nyingine ya chini, nikapigiwa simu, kuna mapolisi wamekuja wakiwa wamejihami, wakatoka bio wakamnyang'anya simu.
The family says it has visited several police stations in search for answers, but is yet to establish where Kariuki is being held.
Stop abducting us.
On Friday, relatives and residents staged demonstrations demanding information about his whereabouts to no avail. On Saturday, during the second day of the protests, Kariuki's sister says she was briefly detained by police before being released.
My clothes are in tatters. My clothes got torn over there. The police officers were running after us. So we had to hide. I was arrested for a few minutes or so, and they took me rounds and rounds, and they dropped me back.
The case has also drawn the attention of local social justice members who say Kariuki's disappearance has unsettled many residents familiar with his community and political engagements.
Karisi mimi nilistuka sana kusikia Karisi amekidnapiwa, na then ndio nikasema lazima pia niende kupigania justice yake. Tukaweka maandamano pale number 10, na Karisi tulikuwa tunafikiri mapolisi watamwachilia venye wataitika hiyo mwito ya ile maandamano tulifanya na wakumwachilia.
His relatives are now urging authorities to clarify his whereabouts and if he is under investigation for any offense.
If at all it's a crime that he has done, there is law. Let him be presented to the police station. Let him be presented to the court, and everything that is supposed to be done. We are going to follow everything that is supposed to be done.
The family describes Kariuki as an aspiring leader who previously contested for elective office, insisting he has never been linked to criminal activity. Human rights groups have also joined calls for investigations into the circumstances surrounding his disappearance.
This young man had been a defender of human rights. He's been speaking about social justice. He's been defending the young people in this community that are being harassed by the security agencies. He's been speaking about political accountability. Could this be the reason why Karis has been abducted?
But speaking to NTV, police spokesperson Kirinyaga rejected suggestions that police officers were involved in any abduction, maintaining that police only arrest suspects through lawful procedures. He also said he heard about the incident for the first time when I called him on Saturday in the evening. As the search for answers continues, Kariuki's family says it only wishes to know where he is and why he's been held incommunicado. Victor Ngaruya, NTV.
Watu wameanzia kupotea tena, ni noma. We have to defend each other. Wacha orokarau nayo iongee.
Sasa, so the case is not kuna mawakili peke yao. No. Ofisi ni kidogo tafadhali. Wakili kidogo. Haya, mawakili. Ndego. Sasa wakili. Haya, let's get in here. Sawa. Na murilo wa rugamo ikale jihade. Washukuru kama ikale. Thank you. You know today. Tutoke tu please. Tutoke please.
Please, I'm the official media guy.
Sijui mtajipangaje media wenye watabaki, si mnaona ofisi iko congested. Ndio tunajipanga. Ndio ile ingine. Sawa. Tutoke media. Please, mwenye mtakubali abaki, haina shida tu nyinyi na malawyers. Tafadhali tu.
I'm the official media guy for one.
Sasa mmekubali na
wengine.
Yes. Wawili.
Mimi ndiye.
Huyu
na mimi.
Sawa.
Yes.
Ani mimi officer. There is no disruption on our deserve. Tunaweza. The others are not disrupting. Sawa, ina shida.
Kidogo tu. Tafadhali. Tutoke. Au ndio. Tutatumiwa. Siko na ulikuwa unataka
hata kuna vitu za kuleta, hata kuna vitu za kuleta so tunasema try as long as you have
Alright. Yes, already. Sawa, ngojeni tu akuje.
Ni kama Wambohea alienda kwa
bwana DCI anakuja sasa hivi. I'm not the DCI.
Mimi pia mnaweza
Mimi naitwa Ndego Anjiro, mimi ni wakili. Tuko na wakili mimi
naitwa Deride. Hapa siku hizi anaenda kila pahali.
Mimi naitwa Ishmael Kulema, mimi ni wakili pia.
Mimi naitwa Washira Waiganjo, mimi ni wakili pia. Mimi ni Ngodha Wawero, wakili pia. Pande nyingine kuna
Kirinyaga Ruto, wakili.
Kuna wakili Edward Mureu, member of parliament. Na wakili Monica. Na kama sisi wa DCI tumeleta msika wetu ambao ni mheshimiwa Jacob Moya in response to the summons which you issued. Na kitu ya kwanza, we have an issue because when I look at those summons were issued by KPP. They were supposed to go to KPP, and yet the cause of action, the alleged crime of resettlement, happened here in Ankalau. So we are saying the summons were wrongly directed to the wrong police station. They are strangers and clueless of what happened. Even the police officer who was telling us how to go over there, she has no clue. So we are here purposely, number one, to say we have brought in our client. That's number one. And number two, she is directed to the wrong police station, and therefore, in response to the summons we have just presented ourselves, then you can take it up from there.
Maybe in addition to what Senior has just indicated, it is true that the alleged offences are alleged to have happened within the jurisdiction of this particular station. So we are here to answer to those summons, regardless of the officer who has issued them. Because there are summons issued by the National Police Service, and it's our hope that we are getting before one this afternoon. And then we are ready to be taken through the processes, which we shall confirm whether or not we will undertake.
And maybe lastly, you can also give us a confirmation whether you are aware of any reports about any activity done by her within your jurisdiction. And if there is any, whether there is any action that is being taken, so that we can. And finally, we also want to know who is a complainant. And we're very, very much interested to know who wrote a statement who is a complainant, and we know exactly how to respond to that complainant.
Additionally, whether you are aware of the summons issued by that particular officer from TPP.
Maybe also additionally is that she has also been quite harassed. Her drivers and also security people have also been withdrawn. This is also an issue. We also want to know why that is happening and whether you are aware of it. And more important is that the cause of action was here, and that's why we are here. And we believe that you have the powers and the capacity to actually drive this process.
And finally, in the circumstance, what is the course of action if you don't have those statements, whether they should be abandoned or mitigated?
We can hand it over to you for an additional.
And thank you for having us.
Okay, on the issue of summons, I do not know the officer who issued the summons, the kind of information he needed from the
Number two, you have told us you are the regional DCI. So we cannot move from here, post office, and go to your junior. So because you're junior, gave out these summons under your instructions.
Or unless you confirm that you're not aware of this.
So if you're not aware, I think for us, on our part, we have complied with the summons. We have presented our client for you. Now from there, you now take it off from there, and we will deal with it as it is.
That should be.
But you cannot take us to a junior and you're the boss.
Or perhaps, is there an officer called Pascal Mwangit? Perhaps we are dealing with someone that has
maybe you're fake summons. If you don't know the guy.
But because simply because you're in a position to confirm whether that is a police officer or not, and because you are the boss, you're in a position to say that your office has never summoned anyone, and therefore this exercise should be annulled and ceased forever, and our client complied.
Or you summon the officer, if he's an officer working at the U, to come here and explain why he issued summons without the knowledge of the police service.
But on a DCIO, just in association to these summons, are you aware that she was being trailed by your officers on Saturday?
The Subarus.
And that her vehicle was confiscated and driven to the DCI headquarters by your officers? Are you aware about that? And that the same had relationship with these summons? Are you aware?
I'm not aware.
Then how do you take it that we have now informed you? Does it surprise you that your officers trailed her? They trailed her all the day. They confiscated her motor vehicle. They drove it to the DCI headquarters. They harassed her driver.
We cannot say it is our officers or it is my officers.
Yes, but they are DCI officers because the vehicle was driven to the DCI headquarters, unless you want to tell us that the DCI headquarters is under now occupation of goods.
And maybe in addition to that, you can confirm the question that has been raised by
that information,
whether it is such officer.
So, if it is unconfirmed information, it remains to be mere allegations.
So who drove the motor vehicle to the DCI headquarters?
I am not aware.
So kindly remind me your name, sir.
Sylvester Wandoko.
Mr. Wandoko. Allow me to salute you. Good afternoon. So from what I'm gathering, my name is Ishmael. So from what I'm gathering is that you claim not to be the law. Unfortunately, I understand you are eligible, sir.
No, not the region.
Sorry, as far as this crime is concerned, I want to draw your attention to section 71 of the Criminal Procedure Code, ordinary place of investigation and trial. So the crime should be investigated by the officers who reside or who are domiciled within where the crime is committed. So it falls well in the constitution. Again, we appreciate is an alleged offense, of course, with political communications, because she's a member of parliament and the ongoing campaigns in the country. So, because we won't be here forever, we want to excuse you. We would also like to excuse us. Our priest, I believe you have your current book. Your current book. Yes. So we would urge you to note these occurrences in the OB. Then proceed, because from what council is alluding to, that the vehicle for Mheshimiwa was confiscated and driven to some DCI premises. It goes without saying, maybe your office is conducting some investigations which you are not privy to. It's a possibility. True. So, to make sure that we abide by the law, you have the powers to give a free bond with a definite time when we can come back to this office to confirm the status of the investigations. I think that has. Yeah, when you get more information. When you get more information. Yeah.
Nafikiri ilikuwa tu jokes, ni kama ati hawana information yetu, walikuwa wamesamoni huyu mama. I think huyu mama nilo wakati alisema yule mtu ambaye sio Arukarawa akikuja hapo apigwe, which was a good statement. So for me, mimi naona saa zingine Kenyan DCI ni kama wananga job ya kufanya. Nikiulizwa mimi Kenyan DCI wananga job ya kufanya. That's why some zingine. And then you can also see yule mama Omar Hassan hajaitwa, and you even start asking yourself, really, what is this double standard all about? Because it's something serious. This double standard, or what is it all about? Serious double standard. Aya, waendelee.
Then when you get information,
so we can be surface here. So it doesn't appear we are being tossed right, left, and center. So we plead with you as a Kenyan, as a law-abiding officer, that you have it noted that some people are here, and you give Mheshimiwa a free call, tell him, can you report on this day at this time? By that time, I have gathered more. So that because this back and forth of I don't know, it appears you are the one giving you the information. You will also go back and do your homework.
I think the most important point emerging from these submissions is for you to note in the occurrence book that you are here, and that we are here in answer of summons that you claim not to be aware of, so that then we are not told that we declined to obey to summons in the future. It is the most important thing.
Exactly.
Number two, the free port issue will only arise if you confirm that Honorable Wanjiku is under arrest. Then you can issue a free port. If she's not under arrest, and if you do not know the idea or the existence of those summons, and upon you recording on the occurrences, we just go out and go on the business of complaining against the news.
Spice that. Also, I found a sample from the office can suffice, so that we know we are honoring summons that we should attend your office on this particular day. Maybe the issue of report cannot be accommodated, then you can opt for a summons.
Maybe there's a very critical question that was asked by my friend. This gentleman called Pascal Mongeti. Do you know him? Because we may be dealing with the summons that are not fake. Do you know him? Mongeti is one of the officers. I'm sure he may be aware. If not, then we may be dealing with some sort of summons. It's called Pascal Mwangeti.
There is an officer called Pascal.
So we can then take this story further by taking the OB and recording us on the OB. Yes.
You know, I do not need to record you on the OB.
Yes.
Why need to issue any summons?
Yeah.
Because there is no offense investigating against Mheshimiwa.
Okay.
Personally, there is no offense.
You as Wambugu or you as DCI?
As in within his jurisdiction, yes. There is no offense which Mheshimiwa being accused of.
That is now what you take it. That's a take home.
Yes, you know.
You need to clarify that. You as Mr. Wambugu or you as a DCI? There is no offense you're investigating, correct?
You know, I have my area of jurisdiction.
Yes.
We may not talk of others.
Perfect.
Yes.
And Milangini is part of it. Yeah. And Tumaini, actually Tumaini is part of your...
For now, I'm acting for the whole country because...
All right.
It's all right.
So then nothing.
Oh, sorry.
So within the county, there is nothing that is...
All right, that is clear to us.
That's enough. So that we can treat this as nothing. So talk to Pascal. If you know Pascal, tell him he's acting.
No, it's
all right.
So now, guys, I think since he has no clue, he's not investigating anything.
Yes.
Let's now go and retrieve our car, Mashua's car, in this year.
Where is it?
It's in this year.
Was it?
And what about the driver? He's out.
So, but you know, these are fundamental
It's
points.
pure harassment, nothing else.
It's a fundamental point that has come out. You know, we didn't know that the gentleman here is over our head.
He's acting over our head.
He's acting over our head.
Exactly, the CCIO.
The CCIO, and he's not aware about this.
Yes, confirmed.
Yes, confirmed.
Yes,
We can assume it as a rogue officer.
As a rogue
officer who breached his boss's line of command. So maybe we can have
And by the way, for your information, I asked this question to the county commander, and he said that there is no report that has been made in regard to the honorable So I was very surprised to see this thing from the start, because the county commander actually confirmed that there is nobody who has reported. There's no crime that the honorable Atiku is being investigated or against. So we take it that there's no, whatever this guy was doing was that pure harassment.
So I think so. Mheshimiwa can sign this.
Then we go home.
I don't like to have that no, give us let us sign the business.
It's a business book.
And it's our There's another one. There's another one. Okay. Let's go for it. Visitors book.
Yeah. Is it your position? Sorry, is it your position that you do not know who impounded Mheshimiwa Wanjiku's motor vehicle? Is it your position that you don't know?
I'm very sincere because we are on this thing.
I'm here to be a Christian.
You're reaching to his wife more often.
The individuals who drove this vehicle identify themselves as DCI officers.
So what I mean is, I have an area of my jurisdiction.
Yes.
So I may not know anything that happens in any other part of the area.
That we need to follow up in Nairobi.
Yes, if you have to follow up from where? Follow up from Nairobi.
Thank you. We are okay.
They're not
You have just been told that the other one is
and he's going to say, you are such a courteous guy. And when you come back to the government, we promote you to become the
then you can give us a paper where we can acknowledge.
Yes, you are here. You are here. But we even want to ask. Honestly, you are in charge of this county. I'm your area senator. I came to visit you. You don't even want me to append my signature. I came to visit here. I came to visit you.
There's a pen available here.
I mean, sure. Even if I was just walking here, I'm still your senator. It does not matter what. No, we are saying I'm the senator of this country. Even if it is covered.
I've also never visited
from
Nakuru County.
I know you have very many visitors who visit you, but I think it's the first time a sitting senator is visiting from your county. You can't say that it will not be acknowledged that I ever came here.
Maybe even to take it further, Senator, these stations.
Maybe honorable members, we should have started by sending our condolences. Because this office we lost this year.
Being buried in this year. I think this year.
So we need to do something.
And I wish also Kamau was here to see the kind of investment someone. So that I
True.
CIO inajanga lini
kama watu wote promotion toka mwetu ya serikali ono yale kwa Mr. Mohamed.
That his office is not conducting any investigations. Is not conducting any investigations. And as such, they said someone.
This is proper assignment.
They said someone should have been treated with the contempt they deserve. They may hear and as such, and as such, they said someone's
This is a condolence.
Let me sign for you as
22nd today. Oh yes, Kamau is here.
MP should also stay.
Kamau, as you said, I want you to take notice of the office of the DCI. So that if you get voted in,
not if, when
you get voted in,
please improve this facility.
You need to do this is not right.
Right.
See, they have money, security.
We continue.
Do him a good house.
Yes.
Good office.
We shall. You see, this office besides being used politically, it serves very key interests of the community. Oh, the DCI.
The condolence is for the
Is it allowed? CIO.
So nimeandika in from the summons issued by the client, acknowledgement is noted that the office of the DCIO is not investigating any officer against my client.
DCIO Nyandarua County.
Nyandarua.
Just give it. I think it's enough.
Yeah, that's enough. Thank you, Bwana DCIO. It's a pleasure. You're a good man.
We appreciate a lot, sir. That was the jubilation by people. It was a lot. Watu walifurahia sana. I think Wanjiku Mohia will be re-elected based on what is happening, and let's see how we will manage to do in Orkarao, because Orkarao is our ground zero now. Yeah, Orkarao, hiyo lazima tushike. Let's hear what this guy is saying. Let's hear what the guy is saying. Akimaliza, I will speak kidogo alafu tufunge because I need to go and rest as well now.
Breaking news. We have a very, very big problem for those of us, vast majority of Kenyans, who want to see change through the united opposition. Let me summarize very quickly what the problem is. According to a seasoned, experienced Kenyan who has been bang in the middle very deep in at least 2 rigged presidential elections. In other words, an insider who saw everything that happened. And therefore, a man we cannot ignore, whether you like it or not. We just can't ignore what this man is saying. Which is, if the united opposition choose Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka as the unified opposition candidate to face Ruto in the 2027 presidential elections, Ruto is going to win the election very early in the morning. What? Now, the big problem here is that according to multiple analysts and any Kenyan who chooses to look at the situation very deeply, it is more than obvious that the unified opposition candidate is going to be Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Watu wa Sifuna najua mko wengi, lakini tulizeni boli kidogo. Just relax, yeah? I'll come to Sifuna in a bit. Now, Jimmy Wanjigi is many things, okay? He is not clean. Yes, he's safi kama pamba. However, he has no reason to tell us a lie. And in any case, don't you think it is an excellent idea to understand exactly what Jimmy Wanjigi means? Because Kalonzo Musyoka is most likely going to be the opposition unified single presidential candidate in 2027. A very warm welcome to yet another information-packed Kumekucha show. In fact, if I was a betting man, I would be willing to very confidently bet with you that amongst the very hot, sensitive information in this video, 90% of it, most of us had no idea. Now, if you're already enjoying this video, please remember to give it a like. And if you've not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. Let's get into the meat right away. Don't you agree with me that before we go into what exactly Jimmy Wanjigi is saying, it is very important for us to remind ourselves why we should listen very keenly to this man concerning this topic of presidential elections. Don't you think? Now, I'm sure most of us already know that Jimmy Wanjigi was the biggest financier of the Jubilee successful presidential election, in 2013, which broke all previous records in terms of money used for that campaign. It was an investment, and today we know it was an investment for Wanjigi's pet project, something called the SGR. But for our purposes today, he was very deeply involved in that campaign and definitely knew exactly how it was rigged against Raila Amolo Odinga. And very important, he knew exactly who the chief architect of that whole rigging game in that election was, and his precise tactics, exactly how he did it. And in case you're still rudderless, okay, that same person who rigged the 2013 elections comfortably and successfully will be the same person who will be involved in any similar effort in the upcoming 2027 presidential elections. Now, in 2017, Jimmy Wanjigi switched sides and fully financed and supported Raila Amolo Odinga to win the presidency. And to summarize, why did he do this? He did this because he was conned. His 2013 investment in financing the presidency did not yield anything, mainly because his pet SGR project was snatched from him and turned into perhaps the most lucrative corruption deal ever in the history of Kenya. I have many shocking stories to tell there, but I'm very determined to stay on point. And so billionaire Jimmy Wanjigi knew exactly how the presidential election was rigged in 2013. And so he was a very key asset in helping the Raila Odinga team take precautions so that the 2017 presidential election would not be rigged again against Raila. Hey, the man was an insider in 2013. What did he not know? And so when that election was still rigged, I can reveal today, Jimmy Wanjigi was the main informant who gave information to Raila's legal team, enough to get the volumes of evidence that finally led to the nullification of the election of Uhuru in 2017. Please don't forget, this video is about what Jimmy Wanjigi exactly saying, that if Kalonzo Musyoka is the opposition candidate, Ruto is going to win very easily, okay? But we need all this background. It is critical so that we understand exactly what Jimmy Wanjigi is saying. So now I believe we're all on the same page and we all totally understand that when Jimmy Wanjigi says that Ruto is going to win very early in the morning, and to quote his exact words, you're playing in Ruto's arena. When he plays his karata, you will not manage. Kalonzo Musyoka as the opposition candidate, Ruto will win. Now you totally understand why you cannot ignore Jimmy Wanjigi when he makes such a big bombshell statement as that. In a nutshell, the man has been an insider. He knows. He has seen it, not being told. He has seen it with his own eyes in operation. Now, before we dive very deep into what Wanjigi is exactly saying, it is very critical that we understand exactly how it was done in 2022. Don't you think? This is especially important because there are those Kenyans who believe if the victory is landslide enough, if there is a big enough margin between Ruto and the actual win of the presidential election, the unified opposition candidate, if that gap is big enough, then rigging cannot take place. Actually, that is not true, as we'll prove from exactly what happened in 2022. This is super, super fascinating. And bila kizungu mingi, it was done using an algorithm. What is an algorithm? An algorithm is a formula. In arithmetic, you use a formula to get certain results from a problem in mathematics. In computers, you feed it into the computer to give you a certain predetermined, pre-expected result. And the way this algorithm works is that it deducts, this is very important, it deducts votes from all the other presidential candidates and gives it to the desired, expected, predetermined winner of that election. Chris, do you have any solid evidence to prove what you're saying? Oh, yes. In fact, I was wondering when you're going to ask. Here it is. And let me start with the most compelling, undisputable, solid, conclusive evidence to prove this. Actually, it is in the public domain and it came from the Cherera 4, the 4 commissioners of the IEBC who disputed the election results announced by Wafula Chebukati. Now, by law, the results are obtained from a printout of the results from the server, which are then confirmed by the physical Form 34As. Somebody believed, falsely, that this was a foolproof way of ensuring that there was no rigging in the presidential election results. But of course, they were wrong. And so the results from the server were okay, or so it seemed, except the final total. It gave us the total number of votes cast as a percentage, 100%, but not exactly 100%, 100.01%. Now, anybody who has done very basic statistics will immediately tell you what is wrong with that result. In a nutshell, it means that it is possible to cast a 0.01 vote, not one vote. It is possible when voting to cast a 0.01 of a vote. In other words, instead of casting a single vote for a candidate, it is possible, allegedly, according to these results, for you to instead decide this candidate is not good enough. And therefore, I'll not even give them 10% of my vote. I will give them 1% of my vote. Now, of course, that is rubbish. There is nothing like that. And so the only possible explanation is that there was an algorithm in the computer which caused this final result. There is absolutely no other explanation. The late Wafula Chebukati, in rushing to announce the results, did not notice this small 0.01, and very important, its very significant implications and what it was saying. Second piece of evidence, there were a total of 58 Kenyans who wanted to vie for the presidency and who indeed handed over their papers and everything to the IEBC to be cleared to vie for the presidency. 58. But guess what happened? The IEBC disqualified 54 and cleared only 4. Now, it may be easy to argue that all those 54 disqualifications, by the way, which gave us the lowest number of presidential candidates in a presidential election in the history of Kenya, it is easy to argue that there were genuine reasons. However, by a stroke of fate, the last candidate to be disqualified proves beyond all reasonable doubt that this was rigged. Yeah, there was a very determined effort to make sure that there were only 4 candidates vying for the presidency. In a minute, I'll explain why. And that last candidate to be disqualified, I'm of course talking about famous gospel singer, Reuben Kigame. Now, there were many excuses the IEBC brought up, but finally it came down to the claim that he handed in his papers late. However, the reality was it was the IEBC using delaying tactics along the way, as if to force him to be late so as to disqualify him. And indeed, a court of law agreed completely with this presidential candidate and ordered the IEBC to put him on the ballot. Well, the IEBC appealed, and a court of law sympathized with them because they said it was too late to include him because it would involve reprinting ballot papers, very expensive. There was no money to do that, etc., etc. The court agreed finally with the IEBC, and this presidential candidate was locked out of the race at the 11th hour. Irrefutable evidence that there was something very fishy going on here, okay? But why 4? Answer, the algorithm chosen to rig this presidential election could only handle a maximum of 4 presidential candidates for what they wanted to do, which incidentally had never been done before. Massive stealing of votes from all the presidential candidates. But of course, especially Raila Amolo Odinga. There is of course more evidence, but to save time, I believe I've already convinced you. Please let us move on. And so this is what Jimmy Wanjigi is saying about Kalonzo Musyoka not being able to defeat Ruto in the 2027 presidential elections. Number 1, in order to defeat all rigging schemes, you need a wider margin of victory than what Raila Odinga got in 2022 that still saw him being rigged out. And that cannot be achieved without the very valuable, influential currently Gen Z vote. By Gen Z vote, I'm going beyond the physical vote to also include the actual support of the Gen Z generation and the crowd. And why can't Kalonzo Musyoka get this? Because the Gen Zs have told us very clearly that they're not supporting old politicians who have been in politics for a very long time, but have not produced any track record or any visible results that can be seen. Gen Zs have told us very early that one they're going to reject. To be clear, Gen Zs have told us they want to drain the swamp. Now, the second thing Jimmy Wanjigi was saying is a bit sensitive, okay? And I don't want to spell it out for the sake of those diehard Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka supporters out there. And I need to emphasize, I have nothing personal against Kalonzo Musyoka. And neither do I think that Jimmy Wanjigi has anything personal against him. We're just analyzing the reality of hard politics. which needs a very strong candidate. Kalonzo Musyoka is a very good diplomat. Nothing wrong with that. Except in this instance, that will not work. Now, it is also true that in the past, we have had a candidate who was not strong enough being elected president of the Republic of Kenya. And this happened because somebody else made him president. I'm of course referring to the third president of Kenya, Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki. Raila Odinga and the firm, solid unity of the opposition, the National Rainbow Coalition at that time, are what made Kibaki president, in spite of his personal characteristics, which may have blocked him from the presidency. The late Raila Odinga not only said Kibaki tosha, that famous statement at Uhuru Park, but he led the campaign countrywide for the election of Mwai Kibaki as president, which resulted in Mwai Kibaki's landslide win against the KANU candidate, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Now, Raila is no longer with us to do the same for Kalonzo Musyoka. But you can argue, Rigathi Gachagua can step in. And this is why Jimmy Wanjigi followed his statement with the following point. He said Ruto could easily decide to pick as his running mate somebody from Bang in the middle of Mount Kenya, and then promise to hand over power to Murema after he finishes his second term. Now, I want us to understand very well that what Jimmy Wanjigi meant here is not necessarily the physical votes. He meant something else, the narrative. The narrative would allow the Murema votes to be split, and therefore it would allow what happened in 2022 to happen again, where thanks to the algorithm, the Murema vote was split and Ruto got a very huge chunk of it. Bottom line, what Wanjigi was saying, not Chris Kumekucha, bottom line, having Kalonzo Musyoka as the single opposition candidate would allow many bad things to happen, including what we have mentioned in this video, which would give Ruto a win, according to Jimmy Wanjigi, mapema asubuhi, early in the morning of election day. What Wanjigi was saying, in other words, is to defeat Ruto, you have to avoid at all costs playing his game. Yeah, he was calling it playing in Ruto's arena. You have to avoid that at all costs and change the game. And he said, go beyond one term, yeah, and go into agenda politics, where you get a unified presidential candidate, yeah, who is standing behind a certain very clear agenda, which has massive support right across the country. I really hope I've not lost anybody there, because that is a very important key point of what Wanjigi was saying. And it is so important that I feel I need to illustrate it further in very clear language that everybody will understand. We have the World Cup ongoing. And if, for instance, you want to defeat a team like Brazil, you don't run onto the pitch and play Brazil's game. Ball juggling, carpet, yani, pure magic. You can't defeat Brazil at their own game. Instead, your chances would be higher playing British soccer, yeah? Brute force, speed, open spaces, quick passes, hard shots, etc., etc. It is rather obvious the Brazilians would have a problem handling that. And so in the same vein, you don't go regional politics against Ruto. No. Hey, you're playing in his arena. You will be defeated. Instead, what you do, you totally change the game to something else. And in the opinion of Jimmy Wanjigi, agenda politics that goes well beyond one term. For instance, we're going to let the constitutional rule, we're going to stick very closely to the Constitution. And that is not all. Here is the track record to prove that I will do exactly that. And my running mate as well. That is what Wanjigi is saying. It is not that he doesn't like Kalonzo Musyoka. No. It is not that he has beef with Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. No. Nobody has anything against this great patriotic Kenyan. Nobody. But what we're talking about here are tactics to win the most important presidential election in the history of Kenya. Don't you think that is more important than a single individual who wants to be president, who indeed deserves to be president? Don't you think that is more important? Now, there are certain very faithful followers of this channel whom I really treasure, but we usually have a problem with them when it comes to candidate Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, because they believe I don't like the man, which is not true. I'm an analyst. I have nothing personal against him, but I'm well aware. Nachezea mbuzi guitar, they will not listen to me. But still, I thought it was important to state. What is your opinion? I would really love to hear your opinion. And you don't have to agree with me. I would really love to hear what you have to say about this very controversial, sensitive topic in the comments area below. Now, very quickly before I go, quite a number of you have already taken advantage of our latest super special offer on my golden key. But I'm also waiting for many more of you to take full advantage of this highly sponsored offer. Because for only Kenya shillings 899, you can be able to get this golden key, which will give you access to all highly sensitive kumekucha information, including some highly sensitive information on the two most prominent personalities in this video, Bwana Wanjigi, very shocking things, and Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, things you never ever knew about him. And you can get all this in my highly sensitive information, weekly intelligence briefings, and of course special reports, which you'll receive all previous ones, pop, as well as all future ones, without ever being asked for any more payment. So please take full advantage of this offer. Until next time, this is Chris Karaoke Kumekucha.
Yeah, huyo ni Chris Karaoke, quite a lot. Ameongea hiyo story ya Wanjigi na Kalonzo. So it's like it is appearing that, are you sure? Acacia. We, auoni ni kama Ruto anaona Kalonzo atamgonga haraka haraka ndio wanaleta hii propaganda aondolee? Me, I feel Kalonzo is a formidable force. In politics ukisikia mtu akisema, unaona Ruto anajaribu kupanga match, tutalia. Tukiruhusu Ruto atupangie mchezo, tutalia. Okay? Tutalia. So, mimi okay, maybe there's another video. Watch your Gen Z here.
ChatGPT, what's the best high-income skill to learn in 2026?
Finance Bill 2026 sailed through, and that is very, very bad news for the motherland. Only that this regime does not know it. Hawajapata hiyo memo bado. They've still not received that memo. That this is the worst news ever. What do I mean? And the passing of this bill, Finance Bill 2026, what does it really mean? Welcome to my very deep, thorough analysis, including, very important, the kind of life Kenyans should expect going forward. Because definitely this bill raises the cost of living dramatically. That is not a lie. That is not propaganda. It is the whole truth. Clearly, without doubt, President Ruto still does not get it. Of course, he's sure he gets it. Of course, he's sure he has a lot more information than a small blogger called Kumekucha Chris. That is true. However, history will record one day that this passing of Finance Bill 2026 was the last straw. Because after it was passed, history is going to record, all hell in Kenya broke loose. I'm not a prophet of doom. I do not wish bad things for a fellow human being, because the Most High loves all of us, including those people who do very bad things to us. What I have simply done is present logic, okay? Very simple logic. 1 + 1 is 2. And if you add 3, you'll get 5. That kind of logic. You know, it just beats me how the government still doesn't get it. That is a real mystery. Now, the passing of the finance bill also told us a lot of things about what is going on inside Parliament. Okay, and we'll also cover that. Super fascinating stuff. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive in. This finance bill passed under very controversial circumstances. Sample the following. 187 members of Parliament were missing. A vast majority of them were a no-show. Now, of course, this number includes seats which are vacant. Like Ol Kalou, we still have an upcoming by-election. But we can very confidently say 185 members of Parliament, at least, did not show up. Deliberately, by the way. Now, there's some good news here. Very little, but at least it's good news. And it is the following. This clearly shows that Parliament, for the first time, is starting to feel the heat of the people of Kenya, the Gen Zs and the rest. Why? Because these members of Parliament did not show up for one simple reason. They did not want their names recorded as having voted yes to the finance bill. And some of them did not have the courage to vote no, because they really fear the executive. They fear Sirikali, which can do a lot of harm to them, and they know it. But there is something these legislators do not know, most of them at least, which I want to tell them, okay? Because they think they are very clever. They think they have succeeded by skipping the sitting where the vote was taken to pass the finance bill. But they're very wrong, because Kenyans, these are not the Kenyans of yesteryears. No, Kenyans are very much aware. Na korada ile mbaya. And therefore, in the eyes of Kenyans, these 187 MPs voted yes. Okay? Because Kenyans were expecting them to show up and stop this finance bill, stop this horror story. And I have more news for them. Okay? I hope they have started polishing their CVs to look for a job, because these legislators will not see Parliament again. And by the way, that is not me speaking. It is the people of Kenya. Kenyans are very angry. Very. You know how Kenyans are greeting each other these days? You know how Kenyans are talking? They're asking, how did your MP vote? That is the question floating right across the country. Although absent, that was a yes vote. No doubt about it. And shockingly, amongst the legislators missing for the final vote, wait for this one, was a man called Ndindi Nyoro, the Kiharu MP. Where was Honorable Nyoro? Alikuwa wapi? You know, you can debate on the floor of the house until the cows come home. But what really matters,
ama huyu Ndindi Nyoro watafutiwe mtu wa kumng'oa, because sielewi kwa nini watu wanini wamemkwamilia tu watu wa Kiharu. Huyu mtu ang'olewe tu. I think he is not serious.
is a final vote, because that is what decides whether something is going to be the law or it is going to be defeated, because that is what the vast majority of Kenyans want. And that brings us to something else. Guess which region had the highest number of missing MPs to vote for the finance bill or against it? Just guess. It was Murema. It was the Mount Kenya region. Eh? No wonder former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has come out and said that MPs need to decide. This cat and mouse game they're playing, they need to decide whether they're with the government or whether they're with the people. Okay, they need to make a quick decision because Gachagua says, if they think they're very smart, if they think they're sly, Gachagua is much more sly than they are. He said something to that effect. And I have to say he was speaking for the vast majority of Kenyans, clearly. And now my recent video makes perfect sense. In fact, my immediate previous video, where I revealed that the government started making arrangements to deal with the June 25th anniversary protests as early as January this year. Okay? And I detailed exactly what they've been doing. Yeah, in a nutshell, threats and money. If you missed that video, I highly recommend that you make sure you take it in. It's very important. And it has got some crazy, crazy revelations that will help you understand the situation right now much better. So now we know this is what must have happened. As the year started, Ruto and company gathered and they realized, hakuna pesa, there is no money. And therefore, what they needed to do was to raise taxes. Yeah, raise that money from Kenyans who are already struggling. And so instructions must have been given, very strict instructions. Nobody should say the government is going to raise taxes. In fact, come out with statements saying that the government has no plan to raise any taxes in the upcoming finance bill, which is exactly what the financiers, Bwana Mbadi, told us repeatedly. The government is not going to raise any taxes. Anybody who is saying that is untruthful. That is propaganda. That is the narrative that has been floating around. And if truth be told, the government has not accounted for the money they're taking away from Kenyans, the money they've been aggressively taking away from Kenyans since 2022. They have not accounted for it. All we see are expensive foreign trips, people wearing expensive designer stuff, but the government has not accounted for this money. Where has it gone? We have not seen any development. Okay, we hear that a lot of it is going into paying debts, but then we are still borrowing. Doesn't make sense. And so the UDA regime had already made a decision to rob us even more. And so they started making arrangements, okay, including how to stop the Gen Z wave. All those details are in my video, immediate previous video. I don't need to repeat myself. Bottom line, June 18th, yesterday, when the finance bill was passed, was the culmination of months of very hard work. Yeah, Operation Rob Kenyans yet again. And yet we have not even recovered from the crazy hiking of fuel prices, which also robbed us, by the way. And for what? For people to take private jets when they're going on foreign trips? Huh? For people to spend huge fortunes in State House budgets? What was it for? What is it for? Please explain to me. I understand, because I don't understand. You know, as we speak, there are many vital issues in our country that are underfinanced or not being financed at all. Education is an excellent example. Capitation haifiki squeeze, it doesn't reach the schools. And schools are struggling to survive. So where is this money going? Actually, we have a very good idea where at least some of it goes, don't we? So, what did I mean when I said historians are going to record that the passing of Finance Bill 2026 was the beginning of the end for this regime? What did I mean? Okay, very simply put. In fact, I'll put it in the form of a question. Very simply put, what do you expect when you take away money from people who are already struggling? When you take away money from people who do not have it, who are already borrowing left, right, and center just to survive, just to put food on the table? What happens when you come back and rob them yet again? what do you expect will happen? And don't forget, we're going into an election very soon. Very, very soon. In fact, in a handful of days, it will be just 1 year to the next landmark general elections. Now, I will not even answer that question because I think the answer is rather obvious. Mtu akifika mwisho wake, expect anything. And by the way, because I know all kinds of people taking this video, the consequences do not need to be organized. The protests don't need to be organized, okay? Make no mistake about it. Nobody needs to go anywhere to look for people to protest, okay? Kenyans have been pushed very hard and squeezed into a corner. And therefore now, they have no more room to move. They have nowhere to go. The only option is to push in the direction where the pressure is coming from. It's as simple as that. Let me simplify that with yet another illustration. There is this dog in the village, very cowardly. Yeah, you pretend you want to throw a stone, it's already running for its life. It's a big coward. And you push it, and you push it, and you reach this wall, and it has got nowhere else to go. It is completely cornered. What is going to happen next is that that dog is going to come for you, and things are going to be very, very, very elephant for you. Yes, that cowardly dog. That is exactly and precisely our situation in the motherland right now as we speak. And there is something else. These developments in parliament yesterday tell us very clearly. This thing about an impeachment vote against President Ruto, that is a joke. That is a joke as of now. You know, when I did an analysis the other day, looking at the possibilities of such a bill being tabled and passing, of course I said that even if it fails, yeah, it will already greatly weaken this regime. But let's leave that aside. What I want to put across is that when I did that analysis, many of these parliamentarians were huffing and puffing and looking very brave. I am very shocked how they have all so suddenly crumbled. And I'm talking mostly about these 187 legislators. Now, of course, one may look at this 187 from a positive point of view and say these people can be turned. Yeah, these people don't have courage. They just need to be pushed a little and they'll have the courage to impeach President Ruto. But I'm sorry, I don't buy that. I don't. Because let us be honest with ourselves. Which is easier, impeaching the President of the Republic of Kenya or defeating a mere finance bill? Of course, the latter is much easier. And so as of now, that story about impeaching Ruto, ndoto ya mchana. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that is the reality. But there is a very big but, okay? And this is the reality of politics. But things can change very quickly, okay? It is the nature of politics since the beginning of time that things change in a flash till you don't even understand how they changed. You know, in the good book, it is recorded that when our Lord Jesus Christ was coming into Jerusalem for the last time, he received a very warm welcome, very warm. So what happened? Yeah, very shortly after that, when I believe some of the people who were there welcoming him changed and started shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" What happened? That is the nature of humans, human nature, and especially politics. Things can change very quickly. And so that is the only thing long-suffering Kenyans can cling to, and nothing else. And finally, what the passing of Finance Bill 2026 means is that it is right on time for the government plan to deal with the Gen Z protesters. Because your members of parliament, yeah, which means you, have okayed the government to dive into your phone, yeah, to spy on you, to know your every move, under the pretext of ensuring compliance to paying taxes. To be very clear, the passing of this finance bill is part and parcel of the government plot and plan to deal with protesters on June 25th, which is just a couple of days away. Because serikali, the government, will be able to get into every phone, every single smartphone that will be on the CBD on that day. Very easily. And they have a legal right now. You have given them the legal right through your so-called members of parliament. Now, as the government continues to milk this cow, which is already so thin and finished, it is barely removing any milk, but they're still insisting on milking it like there is no tomorrow. What we can expect in Kenya is that life will get even harder than it is now. Eh? Chris, what are you talking about? Already life is unbearable. What are you saying? Eh? That it will get harder. I can understand your anger, but I'm sorry. I have to tell you the truth. It is very simple logic. Okay? You don't have money. Somebody comes and takes away that little money you had kept aside to buy skuma and ugali. Poof! It's gone. Okay? Of course, life is going to be harder because now you don't have your next meal. Yeah, I'm sure you get it. Bottom line, we are not very far from the breaking point. In fact, we're very, very close. And Finance Bill 2026 has pushed us very quickly, very close to that breaking point. And what happens at that breaking point, I don't know. I believe nobody knows. But it is not a good thing. By the way, for all of us, but especially for this regime, which seems to be still in dreamland. Yeah? Because the thinking seems to be state machinery will protect us. We are the government. We cannot be touched. That seems to be the thinking. I wish people would read history more seriously. I wish people would not find history boring. It would really help them. Because that kind of thinking, history tells us very clearly, rubbish. That is rubbish. That is what history tells us, not me. Okay? Brace yourselves, guys. Let us brace ourselves for what is definitely, inevitably coming. You know, the very sad news is that actually things are a lot worse than I've portrayed them on my show today. Okay? I'm sorry. But I believe you come here for the truth. You don't come here to be battered up and made to feel good and given false, fake stories or propaganda. No. Most of you faithfuls, over decades, some of you, come here for the truth and nothing but the truth. And that is what I'll continue doing. And so the truth is, things are a lot worse than portrayed in this particular video. And one way of finding out all the gory details, highly sensitive information, crazy things that this government is doing behind the scenes, is to be able to get hold of my highly sensitive information. Now, we have a current offer, which I'm urging you once again to take full advantage of. You can see details on your screens right now. For only Kenya shillings 899, you'll be able to get the golden key, which will give you access to all Kumekucha sensitive information. That includes my weekly intelligence briefings and my special reports. Please, please, take full advantage. This is a very crazy offer, okay? Because once you have the golden key, you will never need to pay anything ever again, okay? Those details are also repeated in the description area below this video on YouTube and also in a pinned comment. And so, take action right away. Until next time, this is Chris Karaoke Kumekucha.
Yes, msimamo waendelea.
Kaka, mimi nalipi ni mpaka nipate swali, labda kuna swali basi ndo nataka kuchangia video yoyote. Wewe pokea za kwangu bwana, nitangia
kwenda kupiga kura kidogo. Bibi Nyoro kwenda kupiga kura. Sasa Na unajua kuna watu wanasema sisi tutachagua Ndindi Nyoro afanye Kenya atafanya, ni mchapakazi sijui nini, akina Anne ni mbunge wao. Hebu sasa niambie wewe, mtu akikataa kwenda kupiga kura na anachapa kazi utachagua yeye?
Hilo swali nalo lakini awali ya yote kwanza pokea zangu, maana nitangia majuzi hatujazungumza ndugu yangu, unajua nimepapeza tayari hapa, so at least panipe amani kidogo ya mando. Nikaona umfanya mambo huyu naye na speech yake ndefu, lakini kwa swala la Ndindi Nyoro nafikiri tulizungumzia awali kwamba kama alitoka nje kwa dharura, basi kunazo njia pia za kufanya, anaweza piga kura hata akiwa huko, lakini sasa ngoje yamwagike alafu yazoe, utegemee yatarudi kuwa tele, bila shaka yatakuwa sinda, yana atakuwa nusu. So huyu Ndindi kwa apology yake, mimi msimamo sikuipokea kwa kikamilifu. Kweli sawa, kuna dharura mwanadamu anakuwa nayo sawa, lakini pia kuna ule umuhimu wa jambo zaidi. So akiwa huko alikuwa na uwezo aswa wa kupiga kura akiwa huko, unaona, kwa sababu ashafanyika na wananchi wake wa Kiharu wanafaidika, sawa. Kama yupo na sisi, ili mradi tu basi iwe ni mola, lakini kwa utenda kazi sina shaka nao, na mimi namchagua mtu kwa maadili, lakini vile vile na uchapakazi wake, na hicho ndio kitu nakiangalia zaidi kwa kiongozi, maadili, unaona. Alafu pia vile vile na uchapakazi wake, yupo kwa ajili ya nani. So Ndindi mtamza hivyo, yuko kwa ajili ya wananchi, lakini asiwe alifanya hivyo kwa kuweza kugain ile sympathy na kugain ile trust kwa mwananchi, kisha mwisho wa siku amtumie kama kanga mwenye chongo kufukulia mwenye macho. So hiyo ndio kitu ambacho naweza nikazungumzia kaka yangu. Lakini kwa apology hii mimi sijepokelea tangia awali, ni jadili hili kwa show yetu ile mwanzo kwamba kuna njia ambazo kwa nafaa haswa azifanye, lakini kwa jambo la msingi kama hili basi asitafute excuses nyingi, yeye aendelee kufanya kazi kwa Kenya tu. Alafu Wakenya watafanya maamuzi wao wenyewe. Kwa hivyo asiwe mwenye kidonda aanze kujishuku. Itakuwa lete shangu ndugu yangu. Mimi nafikiri naweza nikachangia tu hapo padogo ndugu yangu Njiru, lakini wasalimie wote niliowapeza hapa upande wa comment section, akina dadangu Anna, akina Asia na wengine wote wale, nimewapeza sana hapa tuwapokeza kwangu. Basi kama kuna lingine la kuweza kuchangia kidogo kaka yangu, tukusubiri maandamano na basi. Lakini hilo tu ndo langu la Ndindi, kwamba naweza mchagua kwa utendakazi wa mtu.
Changia story ya Ruto Kirinyaga leo. Unafikiria alipokelewa vizuri?
Jamaangu, gari kisha kosa mwelekeo, basi lazima either ifike kwenye msingi, yani lazima itayumba. So hii gari imekosa mwelekeo, inayumba, yani hatima yake haijulikani, itasimama kwenye msingi ama itaanguka. So kuna ile bambanya maganga ile ya mganga inamwacha mgonjwa yaona matumaini, lakini kwa kweli sijaona ule uchangamfu ule ambao unahitajika, despite ya masuala mazuri yale alikuwa wanazungumzia ya swala ya kahawa na kawaida. Lakini nimesikiza tu kauli ya Ann ambaye ndo mwenyeji yule, nikaangalia, lakini kwa kweli mapokezi yale si yale ambayo tuliyashuhudia wakati ule wa 2000, kabla ya 2002 Unaona, hata mwanzo wa 2003 kisha mambo akaja akageuka hafla. So kwa kweli ni ile tu ganga ya mganga tunaoielewa, kwa sababu organic ile crowd isiwe ni ile ya kusukuma, lazima iwe pale ili media wakache waone kwamba Wakenya waone kwa media kwamba mambo ni mazuri, lakini ukitazama kimtazamo na ukisoma nyuso haswa za wale waliofika pale, utagundua fika kwamba hapa wameenda tu kwa mission moja tu, kwamba twendeni tukale kwa tajiri, then akura zetu tutaziweka kwa maskini. Lakini mimi nimesoma body language tu kwamba si ile ya zamani ile mhemko samahani. hata usemaji wake pia, ile shangwe na nguvu alikuwa nayo tangia awali, ile nguvu alikuwa nayo haswa inaanza kupungua. Unakuta sasa hivi anazungumza tu japo anaponda, lakini sauti pia ile tone imeweza kubadilika sasa hivi, yani tone ambayo ni kama tu anabandika kubandika maneno tu, lakini haina ile nguvu haswa alikuwa nayo tangia awali. So kwa kweli gari inayumba sasa, ni kwamba either ibaki kwenye msingi jistiri ama ianguke kabisa. Huo ndio mtazamo wangu, lakini nyuso zinasema bado kuna kibarua haja kuja kubalika kikamilifu, haswa maeneo ya mlima, despite kwamba kuna baadhi ya viongozi ambao wanafungamana na naye, unaona. Lakini ukirudi kwa wananchi halisia na body language na jinsi na muhemko, sile shangwe tunaiona haswa ikiwa na wananchi kikamilifu, but watu wana sita nyoyoni, unaona. Nafikiri hivi ndio ndivyo nikazungumzia kaka yangu kuhusiana na mkutano ule ambao
nilipita. Kindiki, swali lingine, Kindiki amesema hakunanga one term, all the time ni two term. Na rais hawezi maliza kazi yake kwa term ya kwanza, lazima ina spill over kwa term ya pili. So na katiba inasema, sijui kama ulisikia hapo, katiba inasema ni two term, sio one term. Katiba inasema uwezi gonga moja, unagonga mbili. Unagonga mapacha.
Na ni msomi huyu profesa.
Hebu nikuwekee.
Tunasema ni msomi huyu ambaye ni profesa. Sasa one term ndio kwa katiba. One term ndio kwa katiba. Kwa maana iko kwa nini nazungumza hivyo, kutilia pondo haya nazungumza ni kwamba lazima kila baada ya miaka mitano tufanye uchaguzi. Nini kinatufanya tuende kwa uchaguzi? Ni kwa sababu mwananchi apewe nafasi yake ya kuweza kutathmini kazi ambayo kiongozi wake ametenda within 5 years. Ndivyo ampe nafasi ya kurudi tena kwa awamu nyingine. It's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. Lazima amalize miaka yake 10. Maana tungefanya uchaguzi kila baada ya miaka 10. Pili, akisema haezi maliza kazi yake kwa miaka 5, hata kwa miaka 10 pia haezi maliza kazi. Hata kwa miaka 40 haezi maliza kazi, kwa sababu Museveni yuko pale for long, na kuna marais wamekaa pale for long na hawajamaliza hizo kazi. So kwa kweli hii kwangu mimi haina mashiko. Labda tumsikize tu, lakini kwa kweli hii haina mashiko kwa profesa wangu huyu. Asante.
Hakuna kitu kama one term kwa katiba. Ule mtu anasema one term hajasoma katiba. Katiba imesema tu term ya kwanza ni ya kuleta programs na kuleta policies na kuleta marekebisho na kuleta ile miradi ambayo inaambatana na ruwaza ya huyo kiongozi kama kiongozi wa taifa. Term ya pili ni ya kukamilisha. Kwa sababu katiba imesema term ni ngapi? Term ni ngapi? Kwanza hii two term imeanza juzi. Katika katiba ya zamani hakukuwa hata na limit. Ndio uliona ule mzee alikuwa hapa 24 years. Moi karibu akuwe long term. Lakini sasa tuko na katiba ambaye tunaheshimu. Lakini hiyo katiba imetuambia hakuna rais, kulingana na katiba, hakuna rais anaweza kuanzisha na kukamilisha mambo ya maendeleo ya nchi na miaka mitano. Ikasema kuwe na 2 term. Na rais ameonyesha ile kazi ambayo amefanya katika term ya kwanza. Kwa hivyo next year Rais Ruto atakuja kueleza mahali amefikisha kilimo, elimu, biashara, barabara, manyumba ya bei nafuu, masoko. Alafu ndio tumwambie sasa kulingana na katiba, wewe endelea na 2 term. Niseme nisiseme? Ni kweli si kweli? Ni 2 term si 2 term? So the constitution has designed a 2 term period for the president of Kenya to be able to start and complete programs. And therefore anybody trying to sell a narrative of anything short of a 2 term must know they are undermining the constitution of Kenya.
Hapa kiongozi ameishiwa na maneno. Kwanza hiyo kazi aliyoifanya na itangaza hapa ambayo itamrejesha tena kwa 2 term, sawa, Wakenya wamekubali. Maana yeye kwa kauli yake anasema alionyesha ama anaonyesha ama ataonyesha kazi yake aliyoifanya, sawa. Akionyesha ataonyesha. Je, swali ni Wakenya wameafiki, wameikubali? Pili, akituambia kwamba katiba inazungumza 2 term, sawa, lakini hiyo 2 term ina kigezo chake ambacho ni lazima kifuatwe, na ndio maana kimewekwa papo hapo kwamba every 5 years lazima kuwe na election. Hakuna kwamba kipindi iko hapo kwamba rais lazima akae hapo lazima kwa miaka 10. Ndiyo ipo hiyo miaka 10, sawa, lakini kwanza kuna miaka 5 ya kwanza Wakenya wakutazame wameridhika na wewe, na kama hawajaridhika na wewe ni shahiri dhahiri kwamba wana haki ya kukutoa na kuweka mtu mwingine ama kiongozi mwingine. Tatu, haiwezekani kwamba hata hiyo miaka 10 akipewa amalize miradi na amalize shida zote za Kenya kwa wakati. Hata tuseme tumuongeze tena wakati huo tu tumuongeze na miaka mingine 5, atasema mimi nipo maana sijakamilisha hili na hili na hili. Na hata aongezwe tena miaka 20, tena baada ya hiyo miaka 20 atasema bado kuna jambo hili na hili na hili. Lakini kinacho ni pauka kasi zaidi ni hiyo miradi wanayonadi ya nyumba za nafuu, masoko na nini, ambayo wanaona kwamba hii Wakenya wamepokelea kwa hali nyingine nzuri. No, wanaelewafika kabisa, hakuna Mkenya alipokelea haya maswala. Hizo nyumba za bei nafuu wanazizungumzia kwanza ni hela za Wakenya, na wenye kutoa hizo hela haswa hawana hizo nyumba. Lakini tatu, hizo nyumba wanazizungumzia si nyumba ni bure tu, Wakenya watapewa tu kwa sababu ni ushuru wao wakae. Ni nyumba ambazo pia zitalipiwa. Mwenye kulipua lazima awe na kazi Kenya hakuna. So ni sawasawa, yani umechukua mzigo kwenye kichwa umeoleta kwenye bega, matumaini ni kupumzika. Nasema napumzika, badala ya kuchukua mzigo kuweka chini haswa ili upumzike vizuri, unaochukua kwenye kichwa unaoleta kwenye bega, kisha unachukua kwenye bega unaleta kwenye kichwa. Mwili ni huo mmoja. Kwa hiyo kwa kweli huyu kashindwa na maneno, huyu profesa wetu. Unaona, wacha wamalize ya kwao, wafanye kila watafanya. Wakenya washamua, washaonyesha nia yao na wanajua fika. Kwa maana hiyo hawa wananadi tu na kumaliza maneno, kwa sababu kila jambo walimaliza. Maana kwa kweli tukileta katika orodha yale yamefanya na yale yameahidi, then to combine, kwa kweli ni vitu viwili tofauti. Mimi msimamo bado ninasubiria simu zangu za bure alizoniahidi. Nikipiga simu utakuwa hulipishwi hata shilingi. Leo hii bado tunalipishwa hata shilingi. Ikiwezekana smartphone hizi pia tutakuwa tunachinjwa nazo. Yani hajaacha kila mahali kuhakikisha kwamba hiyo hela anaitafuta, basi itafute, tengeneze netija, elimu iwe bure, afya iwe bure, usalama upatikane. Lakini vile vile swala la ufisadi liwe limezingatiwa mno, kwa sababu hayo ndo magonjwa ambayo yanatuathiri haswa kama taifa, of which hakuna hata moja. That's why unakuta kwamba kikaa wanazungumza barabara, na hizo barabara pia walizozinadi kwa wingi. Ukileta sasa haswa kuziangalia, ndugu yangu hapa, kaka yangu, kwamba zile ambazo zimeweza kutimilika na zile zilizoahidiwa kwamba tushatenga tushaziwekea ni tofauti. Yani hakuna, yani ni kidogo mno kiasi kwamba pili, mbona mngojee wakati mnaelekea election ndo muonekane sasa ndo mnamjali mwananchi? Ile miaka mitatu yote ambayo ameshatulia mwananchi, miaka minne yote amekataa, mwananchi ametulia, mnafanya yenu, mbona? So kwa kweli profesa huyu anaongelea tu mkate wake wa siku, maana pale mahali patamu labda, unaona sasa utamu ule uko pale na usikia yeye peke yake. Asitudanganye na sie tuone huo kwamba tutakuwa na sisi vizuri, no. Yeye anatetea unga wake katika hii speech, anatetea unga wake maybe, lakini kwa kweli hii katiba iliweka miaka 10 lakini na masharti. Tengeneza kwanza miaka 5 wananchi wa kuangalie, then wakupe miaka 5 mingine ukamilishe miaka yako 10 sizidi pale, ili nafasi ipatikane kwa mtu mwingine kuondokana na hili ambalo alikuwa analizungumza la kiongozi yule wa awamu ya pili ya kukaa kwa madaraka for long. So hili tuliliona haswa lina athiri, linanyima nafasi ya viongozi wengine, na taifa lazima liwe na mabadiliko ya viongozi, kwa sababu kila kiongozi ana lake ambalo haswa ameliweka mbele. Tukitathmini uongozi wa Mheshimiwa Moi hayati yule ulikuwa na mazuri yake. Tukiangalia uongozi wa Mheshimiwa Kibaki ulikuwa na mazuri yake. Ukiangalia uongozi wa Mheshimiwa Uhuru ulikuwa na mazuri yake. So kila decade ilikuwa na mazuri yake na mabaya yake, unaona, lakini tunaangalia uzuri zaidi kuliko mabaya. For instance, sisi huku tuliko for the first time uongozi wa Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta ndio tuwashuhudia wa China wakifanya kazi na ajira zilikuwa kocho kocho. Wengi wa vijana waweza kujiendeleza so kwa kufanya kazi za barabara ambazo sasa tunajivunia. Bado kuna lami mpaka sasa hivi, lami haswa. So kwa kweli ni kipi ambacho kwa sasa hivi tunajivunia haswa, sie kama si loha kutenga, alafu na vile vile kuona kwamba tunanyofolewa mifuko, so hela haishikiki tena, hela ile imekuwa haipatikani kabisa. So uwezeshaji wa kuitengeneza hela ili iwe nyingi kwa taifa hii wamefail, na hii ndo uti wa mgongo, kwa sababu kama litakuwa it's a busy country, unaona kila mtu anawajibika kisawasawa, hela inapatikana, then ukijengea nyumba, basi na uwezo wa kwenda kukaa pale, kama 1000 zangu 4 kulipa kwa mwezi 1500 nitalipa, kwa sababu already pesa hapa inazunguka. Sasa uzungukaji wa pesa umekuwa ni finyu mno, kisha mwisho wa siku tuje tu ahadaiwe hapa. Mimi kwa kweli Waislamu wasema inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun, yani kashindwa na maneno kabisa jamaa yangu huyu. Nikiwacha tu wazungumze pumba lao, but already wa Kenya wamefanya decision, washapiga kura, ni kuhitimisha tu 2027, alafu sauti ya Mkenya iheshimike, aone kivumbi, tuwapeleke nyumbani kwa uzuri, ndio wajue kwamba katiba kwa hii time limit wanaitangaza hapa ya miaka 10 ina kigezo hapa katikati. Lazima Wakenya warudi kwa drawing board, warudi tena kutathmini, wapewe nafasi hiyo kuangalia, je, mmeridhika na kazi ya kiongozi? Ndio tumuongeza tena miaka 5 mingine, na kama hatujaridhika kama ambavyo wengi hatujaridhika, basi miaka hii 5 inatosha. In fact mimi msimamo nasema hata ilikuwa mingi, unaona. Kwa hivyo hapo ndo naweza nikazungumzia kaka yangu Njiru nikichangia hili la Pindika. Asante.
on keeping up with the Kenya Kwanza government.
The former president of the Republic of Kenya, based on the tribal utterances that he is making, he is beating drums of war.
3 days from now, Kenya could explode again. And this time, the government looks scared.
Hakuna kitu kama one term kwa katiba. Ule mtu anasema one term hajasoma katiba. Katiba imesema tu term ya kwanza ni ya kuleta programs na kuleta policies na kuleta marekebisho na kuleta ile miradi ambayo inaambatana na ruwaza ya huyo kiongozi kama kiongozi wa taifa. Term ya pili ni ya kukamilisha.
June 25th is coming and President Ruto has deployed his finest political soldiers to beg Kenyans to stay at home.
Nyeri hakuna maandamano, sisi tumefanyiwa kazi. Hawa watu mnaona wakileta maandamano Nyeri ni watu wa Nairobi wanakuja kuharibu Nyeri. Sisi tuko gangari na tuko nyuma ya William Samoei Ruto.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki insists there is really no need for anyone to lace up their protest shoes because this year's finance bill is nowhere near as dangerous as critics claim.
Mimi nashangaa kusikia kwamba wale wachochezi ambao walikuwa wanaitisha maandamano ati kwa sababu ile finance bill imeleta ushuru mpya baada ya kuanikwa, sasa wamegeuza mjadala. Wamesema ya kwamba ni sawasawa, finance bill haijaleta mabadiliko, finance bill iko sawa, lakini tutaendelea na maandamano. Hiyo ni kuonyesha ya kwamba finance bill na budget na ule mswada wa fedha ilikuwa kisingizio. Mambo yao ilikuwa ya uchochezi na mambo ya siasa ya bure. Na mimi nataka niseme ya kwamba wale ambao wanataka kwenda kuandamana, katiba imekubali mtu yeyote kujieleza. Lakini hakuna ruhusa kuumiza haki za wengine, kuvunja maduka, kuumiza wananchi, kupora mali yao. Hakuna ruhusa kikatiba kufanya hayo mambo. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka niwahakikishie kwamba usalama wa kila mwananchi utahifadhiwa. Usalama ya mwandamanaji, lakini pia usalama ya mtu ambaye ni mwenye duka, usalama ya mama ambaye ako sokoni, usalama ya msafiri utadumishwa kuhakikisha kwamba kila mwananchi anaendelea na shughuli zake. Na mimi nasema wenye kuleta hii picha hii walikuwa wanasingizia mswada wa fedha. Sasa mswada wa fedha hauna chochote ambacho kinaweza kuzungumziwa. I wonder what else is making those who had called for those protests to continue. Na mimi nataka niseme anyway, ile mambo yao wanataka kufanya wafanye, lakini hakuna kuumiza wananchi. Hii Kenya, kila mwananchi amelindwa na serikali, amelindwa na sheria. And this is not supposed to be a threat. It's not supposed to be a joke. That is what is going to happen on Thursday. Na mimi naongea ikiwa naibu wa rais wa Kenya, na ujue zamani nilikuwa waziri wa usalama wa taifa. So I know what I am saying. So on Thursday there will be no monkey business anywhere in the Republic of Kenya. Na hakuna mtu atatisha sisi tusilinde mali na maisha ya wananchi. Mwenye anataka kupiga kelele kwa pale mtaani apige kelele yake, jioni aende nyumbani. Lakini mambo ya kuvunja maduka, mambo ya kuumiza wananchi, musahau.
In fact, Kindiki suggests if Kenyans go searching for reasons to demonstrate, they will come up empty-handed because the president is working overtime to fulfill his promises.
Barabara zinaendelea kujengwa. Hospitali kubwa zaidi katika kanda hii ya Afrika inajengwa hapa Eldoret. Unajua kwamba mambo ya manyumba ya bei nafuu inaendelea hapa Eldoret peke yake.
One almost feels sorry for the messenger because June 25th is not a date you can simply talk your way out of. In June 2024, it became the day Kenya watched in horror as young people who questioned the finance bill were met with bullets in broad daylight. Some were shot, some were abducted, some simply vanished, and others survived but carry scars that no government compensation check will ever fully cover. And in the aftermath of the blood-soaked afternoon, something else happened. The Ruto brand died on the spot.
What if I am an agent of destiny for the transformation of our nation, whose promise has been delayed?
Msimamo itabidi react hiyo. What if I'm an agent of destiny? Destiny imebadilika definition.
Unajua sisi wengine kizungu si mdomo wetu, labda hii agent ya sijui nini ni anamaanisha nini kaka, pengine kabla utimke kuangalia kikombe labda kana
amesema I'm an agent of destiny, kumaanisha yani ile kitu anajaribu kusema kusema yeye ni kama Musa. Unakumbuka yule Musa wa Biblia, yule Musa ambaye amekuja akatoa wana wa Israeli. So tunaona Musa ndiye sasa hapa Musa ndiye aliweza kutoa wana wa Israeli kutoka kiwango kimoja hadi kiwango kingine. So
lakini hakujikuza wala hakujikweza Musa. Wale wafuasi wake walimuamini kwa matendo, kwa ishara. Sasa huyu mbona anajikuza na kujipiga kifua kwamba yeye ni Musa? Kaambiwa na nani? Kwa sababu hii uongozi na sifa, ngoja usifiwe usijisifu mwenyewe. Mbona anajisifu yeye mwenyewe kwamba ni Musa? Je, wa kumwambia yeye ni Musa ni wananchi wa Kenya kuridhika na yeye, kuona kwamba huyu ndio Musa wa kweli atakayetupeleka yale atakayetutoa Misri na kutupeleka haswa nchi hadi kule. So kwa kweli haya maneno mimi kwangu ni maneno ambayo yanatumika kuweza kubai sympathy. Lakini palipo ni kera mno ni haya maandamano kwamba wanayatia kwamba uvunjaji wa mali, uvunjaji wa nini. Kwa kila maandamano yalifanyika kauli ambao wanapingana na maandamano hizi, ndio ilikuwa kauli zao, ili waweze kuweka polisi wengi na vile vile wachanganye na gunzi kidogo. Mwisho wa siku ile distraction ambayo kulikuwa kuna uharibifu wa mali, ili kuzuia ile haki ya muandamanaji ku express kile ambacho anaona kwake si sahihi. So kwa kweli hii ni ishara wazi kwamba maandamano hayo yatalindwa vibaya mno. Kwa mshipa wa kichwa ulomruka huyu deputy wa rais huyu na uhakikisho huu, kwa kweli maandamano hawana haja nayo. The neno maandamano kwao linawakera mno, linawapa kizungumkuti mno. Ndio maana wanatia hii hofu kwamba ni uvunjaji wa mali. Mali imevunjwa saa ngapi? Pili, sisi wananchi tunafuatilia media za akina nani wanaanza hizi vurugu. Na mwisho kabisa, kazi ya polisi ni kupambana na wale wanaovunja haki ile kwa kuweza kukabiliana nao kisheria na kuweza kuwakamata haswa. Lakini unakuta wanaoumizwa na kupigwa haswa marisasi ni wale ambao wako empty handed. Unaona, they are empty handed. Wao wako na handkerchiefs, maybe tuna bands zenye wamebeba. Unaona, so unagundua fika kwamba hapa jamaa wanaona kwamba kwa kweli maandamano na yale yalifanyika 2024 ya Gen Z, basi huenda yakawaacha haswa mdomo wazi tena kwa ile hasira ambao wameweza kuiweka haswa, na pia ile kumbukumbu ambayo wataweza kukumbuka yale yaliyotokea. So for real, waseme maandamano hatuyakubali, that's all, period. But for the time being hakuna sababu yoyote ya msingi wanaitaja haswa inayoashiria kwamba maandamano yako kikatiba. Kile wanakizingatia pale ni time limit ya 10 years time limit. Hiyo ndio wanazingatia, iko ndani ya katiba. Wanaiacha maandamano haswa, wanayabambanya kwamba ni haki yao wafanye, lakini uvunjaji wa mali ule already, kwamba hapo watadeploy polisi kufanya kisichofaa, kuhakikisha kwamba wanafurusha kila mtu ambaye anaweza kuandamana.
Msimamo wanaweka
Yes.
polisi zina provoke watu.
Yeah. Unaona, so hapo wajipange, hapo ndo wanatunyima uhuru wetu na sisi haswa wa kufanya hayo maandamano ambayo on daily basis, kwani tumeshuhudia maandamano kidogo tu, mfano kama mwezi ama wiki kadhaa zilizopita, wale waandamanaji walioshika sanduku la Ebola, watu 5 6 wale hawakuwa na chochote zaidi ya sanduku lao la Ebola, sanduku lao lile na bands zile, hawakuwa na bunduki, hawakuwa na marungu, hakuna mali iliyovunjwa mali, lakini mbona walichukuliwa mkuku kwa wakawekwa ndani ya magari. Maandamano yaliofuatilia tena wengine nao the same thing, akina Mheshimiwa Maraga wakawekwa ndani. Walikuwa wamevunja mali ya nani? Walikuwa wamevunja duka la nani? So hii regime inaogopa maandamano kama kitu kingine, yani hawana kitu kingine wanachokiogopa zaidi ya maandamano. That's why I do believe siku ikifika watadeploy polisi. Swali langu ni je, polisi for how long mtatumika kama kanga wenye chongo kufukulia wenye macho? Wale wakizunguka na chopa, wewe macho na bunduki, unaenda unazoa haswa, unaenda unafanya kazi ambazo kwa kweli hazina tija, mshahara kidogo tu. For real. Hapa kuna nipa kizungumkuti. So kwa kweli hii sehemu ya Kindiki wangeingia mchecheto, na ndio maana mkutano wao na wakituambia kwamba kuna jengo hospitali kubwa zaidi barani Afrika huko, itatusaidia na lipi kwa sasa hivi? Ikiwa elimu, watoto bado wako manyumbani, wazazi lazima waharamike kulipia watoto wao school fees, unaona, na hela hakuna. Zikipatikana zinakatwa, zinaingizwa katika mradi, kwa sababu lazima tujisimamie wenyewe kwa ushuru wetu, lakini ushuru ambao tunaona kwamba unatumika kwa matusipo ya nje ya behali, mandege yenye thamani na mavazi na kadhalika na usharubaru. So wanataka kuendeleza hili for 10 years. Kwa kweli ni one term, whether na wananchi watajitokeza maandamano. Tumezoewa kuuliwa na hatuna shida na hilo, but maandamano ni mandatory, lazima ifanyike tena, ifanyike na zaidi haswa. Unaona, mwisho kabisa najiuliza kama wao wanasema wawe empty handed always, wao daima, wao wananchi wako empty handed, hawana chochote. Maandamano yote yamefanyika hivyo, but kazi ya polisi ndio ina fail pale kuchunguza mbona nani wanahusika, because wale watafanya ile vurugu ni wale ambao wamepangwa na vigogo wao, watakianzisha, wanagonga maduka ili kusudi polisi waanzie sababu ya kuweza kuwafurusha wengine na wengine wauawe, na wale wenye wamevunja hakuna mmoja ambaye atauawa. So ni wale ambao wanapigwa risasi, ni wale ambao wanakimbia huku na huku, nakuta mtu amemwagwa ubongo haswa mahali ambapo hapastahili. Hapana, mahali ambapo amevunjwa lolote, ni mtu anaenda anatembea na anakimbilia usalama wake. For instance, haya maandamano ya kupinga masuala ya Ebola, hawa waliuliwa kwa sababu gani? Hawa wananchi ambao walikuwa ni innocent waliuliwa kwa sababu gani? Walivunja maduka kwa kupinga Ebola isijengwe, quarantine isijengwe, but tulipoteza vijana pale ambao waliweza kuuawa. Mtu ametoka kwa bodaboda, ameenda nyumbani, ameweka unga kwa mama yake, anasema ngoja niende kwa rafiki yangu, njiani hapo anapigwa risasi for nothing. So for real, serikali yetu ambayo ipo ama serikali iliyopo kwa kweli aina hii inaogopa maandamano kupita kiasi kuliko kitu kingine. Hawaogopi uchaguzi kwa sababu wanajua kwamba uchaguzi watafanya kile watafanya, but kitu wanaogopa ni maandamano. So kwa kweli mimi ni kwa rai, ndugu zangu wa Kenya, kwamba piga ua, safari ya ukombozi inapanda shuka nyingi. Miongoni hizo hakika tutawapoteza wapendwa wetu, kwa sababu ndio hao ambao tutawakumbuka tarehe 25. Then wanarudi tena, tutafanya compensation ya maandamano, tunajali tena wao yani wametufanyia siofaa, alafu narudi na compensation.
Msimamo kidogo, msimamo nikuulize, kwa nini? Sababu Gen Z wanasema ama vijana wanasema baadhi ya ile mambo wanataka apology, wanataka serikali iombe msamaha kwa kuua vijana. lakini ile mambo serikali inafanya ni kutishia badala ya kuomba msamaha. Kwa nini wewe kwa mwenendo wako unaona ni kama serikali haitaki kutoa msamaha? No, kuomba msamaha, kusema ni kweli tulifanya vibaya, na waseme mpaka sasa tutengeneze commission ya kuinvestigate what happened. Why do you think the Kenyan government is pretending hakuna kitu ilitendeka? Polisi waliua watu, no one has been investigated. Wanataka tu tuendelee tu ni kama watu tu walikufa na story ikaisha hivyo. Why do you think they want us to just keep quiet?
Yeah, they want us to keep quiet because they knew very well who did that, who planned those killers. Kwa mfano, sasa hivi wanalalamika maandamano si ya wananchi, ni maandamano ambayo yamepangwa na wanasiasa wale wanapingana nao. So blaming game ndo ambayo imetumaliza katika hii country. Mtu anafanya makosa lakini ananyoshia kidole mtu mwingine. That's why unakuta wanaelewa fika kwa nini wanasita kuomba msamaha kama hawajui kile ambacho kimefanyika. Na sio watasemaje si wao, kwa sababu ni haki yetu sisi wananchi kuweza kulindwa. Bunduki zile ni za wahuni, lakini mbona zinatumaliza si ya wananchi? Then so unakuta hofu yao ya kuweza kuomba msamaha hawa itakuwa ngumu, kwa sababu wanajua fika wao wenyewe ndio wanahusika, wao ndio wenye hawa guns. Kwa hiyo maandamano pia haswa wao viongozi ama yao pia na strategy zingine yao na limit pia yao na vitisho. Tukiona haya yameanza yale yalifanyika, sasa itabidi tusitoke na sisi pia empty handed. Tuende tujilinde ili tutimize haswa lile ambalo tunalifikiria kwamba ni sahihi kwetu kimaandalizo kikatiba, kwa sababu tumeenda na heshima iliyowekwa katiba kwa kubeba kichochote chombo chochote ambacho kitaathiri mtu mwingine. Tubebe ile karatasi yetu, tubebe kitambaa, tubebe simu na tuendelee haswa kuimba nyimbo haswa na ule ujumbe ambao tunaobeba haswa mpaka sehemu husika ambayo tunataka kufikisha ujumbe huo. But inakuwa ngumu. Blaming game wao fulani ndio walifanya, hawa wengine ambao ndio wamepanga guns, serikali imetulia, then wanarudi hapa litapeana ulinzi na wa kutosha. Kwa ni uongo, kwa hawezi omba msamaha kwa kitu ambacho wanajua fika wameweza kifanya. Kile wanatafuta ni excuse ya kwamba ilifanywa na wachache, serikali wao hawahusiki, unaona. Kwa hiyo watafanya compensation, so wanafanya compensation, lakini haki ya hao waliofanya hivi iko wapi? Hiyo kweli ni wangwana.
Hiyo compensation wanafanya kweli msimamo? Hata hiyo compensation kunayo kweli?
Hakuna. Ni kauli tu ile kwamba ya kumlaza mgonjwa, ni ganga hiyo naizungumzia, ya kumwacha mgonjwa akiwa na matumaini, unaona. Lakini inakuwa ngumu kwa sababu kama kweli ni wa kweli, kutoka 2024 mpaka sasa hivi ni 2026, miaka miwili hii yote wale wahuni waliokuwa kwa makameras walionekana kabisa. Askari wale ni wangapi ambao tumeonyeshwa kwamba wako kizimbani, maana walifanya yasiyofaa kuweza kuua wananchi ambao walikuwa hawana hatia, wanafanya haswa haki yao ya kidemokrasia, haki yao ya kikatiba. So kama hili limewashinda, kwa nini sasa tuanze kutuletea vijihela ati mmetenga kwa bajeti kwamba hii bajeti itapewa compensation, then ipelekee nguzie sehemu ambazo mfano Luo Nyanza kule kuweza kwenda kuwaziba nani kwa sababu ya kugeni mpate kura. So hiyo ni hongo, si compensation. Lakini hela hiyo pia imetengwa hivyo, sehemu ya compensation pia haitapeana kwa sababu hapa ndugu yangu na hela hii regime ni namba moja. They are here because of money. They are not here because of we as citizens. Mimi nafikiri nitaachia hapo kaka.
Haya, sawa msimamo. Sasa unaweza toa wazo la mwisho, sababu mimi nataka kuondoka bwana.
Ndugu yangu, mimi nikuombee safari, ama kama unataka kwenda kupumzika haina shida. Mimi nimeshukuru kwa muda ambao nimeweza kupata na kuchangia kidogo. Hapa ni nyumbani, cha msingi tu ni kwamba mlimia choka siku zote hachoki, hadi akichoka amepata. So tunatafuta kulibadilisha taifa hili, kuna kulibadilisha taifa, kulileta katika uongozi ulio na tija. Basi ni safari ngumu zaidi, inahitaji ujasiri, inahitaji inahitaji aswa bidii, unaona, kuweza kuona fika kwamba tunafikia hayo malengo. Lakini vile vile haswa tukumbuke kwamba mjenga kwa wengine, basi kwao unaporomoka. So badala ya kwamba tuweke siasa na mamlaka na power mbele, wacha tuweke maendeleo na haki kwa kila mtu. Nadhani hilo litakuwa ni taifa lenye tija. Hiyo ndio hamu yangu, kuona kwamba sauti haswa ya Mkenya imepewa kipaumbele na viongozi, si sauti ya viongozi. Mfano kama umecheza hapa speech kwamba unasema sisi huku kwetu tumeamua. Anayeongea kuamua ni yeye tu kiongozi, kwamba ameamua, lakini je, wengi wa wananchi wameamua kama alivyoamua yeye? So kiongozi mmoja ama viongozi wachache wasitubebe kwamba wamebeba haswa Wakenya wote mitazamo. Tupewa uhuru wa kusikizwa, na tukisema hapa mahali hapendi sawa, basi pafanyike. Tukisema elimu haiendi sawa, pafanyiwe lakini muda wa hii regime kufanya hivyo umeisha. Miezi iliyobaki haswa ni kidogo mno kuweza kuona kwamba kutakuwa na mabadiliko yoyote zaidi, haswa ya bamba ile kwamba nguo inabandikwa viraka vipya, lakini nguo imechakaa hii. Kwa hivyo mimi hiyo tu ndo yangu, ndugu yangu. Kila laheri na ndugu zangu comment section. Basi Mungu akijali, tukirudi tena, Mungu akitupa uhai, tutakutana kwa show nyingine. Asante.
Okay, asante. Thank you very much. Nimeshukuru. Asante kwa wale wametufuata kwa kipindi ya leo. Sitaweza kuendelea na kipindi, nilikuwa kwa simu ya sababu ile gari natumia haihitaji simu. So sitaki kukosea. So we will meet tomorrow, and I need to drive home. Thank you.